And then who's 774872?
I don't know. They're muted.
Would that be me, Mr. Chairman, Jim Aguirre?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we are good to go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, December 16th, 2020 at 6:03 p.m. This is your regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting. And at this time that I'm calling the meeting to order, I do want to take a roll call before we enter, so we can enter into open session. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And so public input may be provided using email on the agenda, the telephone number listed on the agenda, the Zoom link on the agenda, and as always, a recording of the meeting will be accessible on the Town of Dighton YouTube channel for later viewing. It will also be placed on Channel 9 on the regular replay schedule, which I believe is Friday evening. And with that, I ask that everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. And please remain standing. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
of the United States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all. Mr. Chairman, while we're standing, since our last meeting, I would like to mention the passing of several Dighton residents or former residents. Cecilia Katouche, Michael DeCosta, Eileen Perry, and a former resident of Dighton, Kit Perry Demora. And in their memory, I would ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as always, our condolences to their family and friends. And so I am requesting that we move the following agenda items out of order, simply because we have a pending winter inclement weather this evening and into tomorrow morning. So I am requesting that we take the agenda items concerning our highway superintendent out of order, items 7A, 8D, and 8E.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we take agenda items 8. Would you repeat those again?
Yeah, sure. 7A, 8D, and 8E.
7A, 8A, no, excuse me, 8B.
D.
D as in David?
Dog. Yep.
Sorry.
No worries.
8D.
And E is an egg.
And 8E out of order.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then we will go back to our regularly scheduled meeting. The first on the agenda is to discuss and act on the Brig Street Culvert Grant contract. And I know there were some updates. I know there, for example, was a question of whether or not, I believe Mass DOT would require an additional hydrology study. So Mr. Ferry or Mrs. Brady, did you want to provide an update for the board? And perhaps, I know we had discussed this earlier, Mrs. Brady, we may take some action tentatively. So Mr. Ferry or Mrs. Brady?
Mr. Ferry, would you like to go?
Yeah, I figured so. The smile on your face. So there was a question of satisfying Mass DOT's hydrology concerns with the floodplain, especially downstream with the next structure downstream. And there was quite a few emails that went back and forth with Mass DOT with our engineer that's working on the project. And now Mass DOT is satisfied with the no water rise downstream with the hydrology study that was in place with some clarifications with that project. Our liaison with the grant provider is satisfied also and suggested that we proceed with signing that contract tonight. Did I hit everything there, Karen?
You did. You did.
So we are okay just to take a vote to sign the contract? Okay.
Yes,
So
so proceed with having that structure built over the winter and ready for installation in the early spring.
fabulous. Any questions, comments, concerns, my Board of Selectmen colleagues before I entertain motions tonight?
Mr. Ferry, is this all contract work or will our employees be involved?
At this time, we plan on doing the actual physical work in-house.
Okay,
I so move.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve and sign the contract for the Brig Street Culvert Grant as prepared. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, that motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I want to thank everyone involved, Mr. Ferry, our former town administrator, Mallory Aronstein, executive assistant Karen Brady, and everyone at Mass DOT and our technical assistance folks who helped us. Excellent job, job well done on this. So thank you very much. Next on our agenda is and we took these items out of order, is a vote to ratify an executive order to lock the gate at Council Oak. And bear with me just a moment. I did sign an executive order for this. One second. And the reason I signed an executive order was a report of potential damages up at Council Oak, and as everybody recalls, that is now town property. And so I signed this executive order on December 14th, 2020, to lock the gate at Council Oak in order to keep vehicles out. And said executive order is to be ratified at the December 16th, 2020 meeting. Mr. Ferry, did you want to elaborate on the damages? And then I know we have public, so I will entertain some public input before we act on ratifying the order to lock the gate. And I just want to keep in mind that is what we're discussing. Mr. Ferry? And you may not have anything to add, sir. I just wanted to give you the floor.
Yes, working with our tenant up on our property, and earlier this fall, I believe over the summer too, I believe the police that are online can verify this. Along with the other fields and our fields, they've been some property damage, mostly vehicles driving in the fields, and some of it's ATV and two-wheel damages. And more recently, the new slope work that our tenant has done, he's also our abutter, did the slope work that protects our property right along that roadway leading to the tree. He's working with the Department of Agriculture with a special turf building program, and they proceeded to damage that also. And also through this weekend, I don't know all the particulars, but there was an accident with two-wheelers out in that property, but I believe it was just to the north in the Somerset District side. So I'm suggesting that we consider locking the gate. It does not stop people from gaining access because it's part of our trails and a historic site. They can still pass. I believe the original easement says people can forever pass by foot or horse. And but we need to secure the gate in a way that we can have emergency access and disabled can still access the tree. So I suggest no authorized vehicle sign, maybe a phone number that they can call if they need assistance to get in, and also maybe the notch box at the gate for the fire and police.
Yeah, I have no, I'm okay with all those suggestions. I'm amenable to them, Mr. Ferry. I did want to add, and I don't know, actually, I want to go to my colleagues before we take public input, if we have any.
Mr. Chairman, I support and will make a motion
Mhm.
to support ratification. I should say our approval of your emergency order. I would just add that I am in agreement with what was just described by Mr. Ferry. It is a very sensitive area, and the fact that it is protected property, I think anything that we can do to continue to protect it and also protect the, I'll say the investment of the town, the Department of Agriculture, the City of Taunton, Eagle Scouts, and everyone else that has had a hand in that. We need to take steps to protect it.
I'm also in agreement with what Mrs. Goulart just said, as well as what Superintendent Mr. Ferry said. So I'm in agreement that we should continue to lock that with the suggestions that Mr. Ferry gave, having a lock box there, having a sign maybe with a telephone number that they can contact. The public can contact if they need to get in there for some reason. So I will support the motion that Mrs. Goulart is about to make.
Yes, and I will entertain that motion. I did want to add something under discussion, but I will entertain that motion, Selectman Goulart.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, I move that we ratify the, emergency executive order that you issued relative to locking the gate at the Council Oak area.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. And under discussion, I wanted to add, I did speak to Police Chief McDonald about this. My concern from the town's perspective was obviously the, Council Oak itself, the Eagle Scout project, the agricultural land, all of it. But I also had a concern over safety. As our highway superintendent had alluded to, there was an injury. My understanding is a dirt bike was confiscated and a young boy was taken to the hospital. And so I did ask at that time the police chief, knowing those facts, to partner as much as possible with the environmental police, who my understanding is have a little bit more leeway in terms of damages and things like that that may occur there. And so he said he was amenable to that and would reach out to them. I do get complaints about the dirt bikes in that area. Obviously, we all understand kids will be kids and kids will ride dirt bikes. That's what kids nowadays do. But we just want to make sure everyone can be safe. We also want to make sure, as Selectman Goulart said, that we do protect our investment, but also understand and empathize with the concerns of the residents in the area as well, who do express concerns about the activity up there. So that's why I'm supporting any type of activity to secure or better secure that area. Any
Dr. Z?
Sure. Yes, Chief.
Yes. Let me just make a comment on that. We did speak to the environmental officer. He is going to patrol that area, and most of the time he goes up there quite a bit anyways. Locking the gate, I think, is a great idea doing that. A big problem is the four-wheelers, the dirt bikes, which has been a problem for years and years now. Kids ride up there. They continue to go there. So he's going to go be there and check there from time to time. We're going to do the best that we can do and try to stop the problem up there. But like I said, we got people coming in here that are not even from Dayton. They're from Somerset. They're from Taunton. They're not even from our town. They're people just coming in, dropping off the bikes, and they go riding into the pits. So that we have a major issue with out-of-town people coming here. And it's been like that for a long time. So I spoke to him, and he's going to make sure he's going to help us out and do the best we can.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. Yes, Mr. Ferry?
Yep, just one other comment. It's more for the chief and our 911 dispatch. We recognize also with this last weekend incident, there's no mechanism to respond to there, no address outside of common knowledge. So we're going to work on that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Ferry. That is true. That's a good point. Any further discussion on this?
Do you do, Brett, do you do public input now, or do I have to wait for that?
Absolutely, sir.
right.
Just state your name and your address, please.
Absolutely. Jason Quinn, 758 Council Oak Way. I abut, actually all these properties are right behind my house. And I appreciate the effort that you guys are making now to watch it, take care of it, mitigate it. It is a problem, especially on the weekends, and especially and I'm going to preface it by saying that, in this COVID time, the kids need a release. No issues with them. They're going to ride bikes. It is what it is. But my concern is, and on several times where they come ripping up through the streets, doing wheelies. We have kids crossing the street all the time, going from, playing in the yards and things like that. It's a big safety issue, in my opinion. And even this past weekend, it was great weather and everything. I bet you I counted 20 bikes out there this weekend, tearing up and down the streets, to the point where when they were doing the fire truck was doing the Santa drive, they had to stop and let bikes get out of the way because they couldn't turn around. And it's been an ongoing issue for, probably since I've been here for the last couple of years. Just like to see some more, action taken to prevent those kids from going up and down the streets, just tearing up, doing wheelies, things like that, going 60 miles an hour. And then also at night where, they're tearing around in the field out back and, shining lights in the house and things like that, and partying back there, things, it's a nuisance, honestly. And just want to see something done. And also on Brook Street too. I literally almost hit somebody when they were crossing the road 2 weekends ago, just ripping across Brook Street when I'm driving down, going from one side of the road to the other. It's just a big safety concern. And obviously don't want to see anyone get hurt, and don't want to see the town or, the Somerset folks, they own that land over there, get in trouble either. If someone gets seriously hurt. But we'd just like some more patrolling, or, what's the word I'm looking for? Just keep another eye on it, right? Just for safety's sake. That's all. But I appreciate, everything that's going on right now that you guys are doing, try to be preemptive about it. And I will say, Tom, at the end of Manamet there, where the Rougeau's regraded that land, it's wide open there. And, kids on dirt bikes seeing that land there, it's like throwing a ball in front of a golden retriever. they see that, they're going to go and tear it up and ride around. And I don't know if the Rougeau's are going to put a gate or something at the end of that road, at the roundabout there, at the end of Manamet, but that may help a little bit too. I'm not sure.
Yes, we had a discussion with him about that. It's just, that's a little bit more complicated to gate off, because the development has the drainage inside that a little bit. There's some manholes and structures that have to be maintained, but he is aware of it, and we're going to be working on that together also.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I appreciate that. And like I said, it's just more of the safety for the kids, playing in the neighborhood with bikes, ripping up and down the streets. That's my main concern at this point.
Thank you for joining, Mr. Quinn, and for giving us your honest feedback based on, your lived experience as someone who abuts the property.
Yeah.
Very helpful, sir.
Yeah, and I try to. I know I talked to the Rougeau's too a couple times, and they've always asked me to keep an eye out if I see kids up there, tearing up the field, to give them a call. And I have in the past, and have had confrontations with people back there, for riding in the field and everything. But yeah, it's good. I'm glad we're doing something about it, and I just want to keep a vigilant eye out there and keep everyone's safety in mind.
I agree, Mr. Quinn. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it all.
Any further discussion before we take a vote on ratifying the executive order? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and the last item for Mr. Ferry is, and then a long night ahead of you, I'm sure, sir, we appreciate it, is to review, discuss, and act on the Highway Mechanic 1 appointment recommendation. And we did receive a letter. I did. It's probably slightly revised from what may be in the packet. And it contains additional information such as the recommendation on rate. And so I guess I'll just read the last part. So After conducting 2 interviews for the highway mechanic class 1, it is my recommendation, meaning Highway Superintendent Ferry, that the Board of Selectmen consider Mark Carr to be hired as a highway mechanic at the rate of $26.91 per hour. That's because of COVID restrictions. Mr. Carr is currently midway through the process of obtaining his hoisting license, and therefore he doesn't currently qualify for the Class 1 designation at this time. And so the recommendation, and Mr. Ferry, you can speak to this if you'd like, is to allow Mr. Carr a period of 90 days to obtain that hoisting license. And then he also recommends that once the required license is obtained, that his job title be revised to mechanic class 1, and Mr. Carr be given the corresponding rate of $30.29 per hour, which I have to say seems very reasonable. Mr. Ferry, did you want to add anything to that recommendation, sir? And I know you had the interviews with Mrs. Brady as well.
Yes. Yes, as far as the issue with the hoisting license, Mr. Carr does have plenty of experience with the hoisting operations. With his previous employment, he let it expire because he didn't need it because he took on a supervisor role. And throughout this year, he decided to acquire that hoisting license again, but because of COVID, the state is not testing in a readily fashion like they are. The tentatively date is latter part of January, I believe the 22nd. But he, outside of that, he's a perfect match for what we need done in our shop. And there was a low turnout on the applications, but he still came out on top of what we had on hand.
That's fabulous. Mrs. Brady, before I open up discussion to my board colleagues, did you have anything else you wanted to add as a participant in those selection interviews?
Just that Mr. Carr was an ideal candidate for the job. He's very well-rounded. He's going to bring a lot of experience to the department.
Agreed. And thank you, Mrs. Brady and Mr. Ferry, for participating in those interviews. Do Selectman Goulart or Selectman Pacheco have any questions? Yes, sir.
Yes.
You have the floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a motion that we hire Mark Carr to be the highway mechanic at the rate of $26.91 an hour, that we give him a period of up to 90 days to obtain the hoisting license, and once obtained, that he be hired as a mechanic class 1 at the corresponding rate of $30.29.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item?
When can he start?
After 2 weeks of notifying his employer.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion, colleagues?
So, Mr. Ferry, that he probably will start the beginning of next year, then I would assume. January 2nd. Today's the 16th.
Yeah, or more like, yeah, or the January 4th, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you so much, Mr. Ferry. I know you are on a tight schedule because of the pending storm. Sir, we shall be in touch based on that storm and whether there may need to be any cancellations or closures or delays or anything like that. So
Mr.
thank you
Chairman,
all.
Mr.
Yep,
Chairman, we need
yes.
a roll call.
Yep, give me a second.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Mr. Ferry. We appreciate everything you and the Highway Department will do this evening in terms of snow plowing. With that roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye. We said
Mr.
it at the
Ferry,
same time.
Mr. Ferry, don't leave just a minute. Mr. Chairman, what about 8J?
Okay, I want to go to the certificate ceremony because we have.
The only reason I mention 8J is it's the Sursage DPW thing, and Mr. Ferry's here.
Do you need to be here for that, Mr. Ferry, or can we move on to the ceremony that was planned for 6?
I don't believe I need to be here because that's
Okay,
actually part of the
perfect.
classroom that was already voted on with the superintendents and administrators on hand.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir, and be safe tonight.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I didn't realize it was gonna snow tonight, so I'm gonna have to leave and get some bread and milk, batteries.
I was talking to Mrs. Brady
Guys,
about that.
thank you very much for accommodating me, and you guys have a safe night.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Mrs. Irwin had sent me a copy of the certificate of recognition ceremony, but because I have 5,000 emails in the last 3 days, I cannot fish that out. So if someone would like to send me that right now, I'm happy to share that on the screen. And if not, we will do it without it.
I wouldn't know, I don't know how to share it to you, so I got it in front of me, but
Does anyone have an electronic copy that they can email me so that I can show it on the screen, or no? No?
I'll check to see what I've got here.
it was in the packet.
Yeah. Okay, we're just going to do it without that. Okay, so we have a certificate for 4 brave individuals. Sergeant Sean Cronin, I did speak to him. He is unable to be here this evening, unfortunately, as well as Officer Stephen Farrer, who is also unable to be here this evening. But we are joined by Mike Marshall, Patrolman Michael Marshall, who is also present that evening and did display heroism, and also Detective Ryan Richards, who is also there as well and displayed heroism. So the first sentence is sort of specific to each officer and when they started. So I'm going to start reading the proclamation and certificate of recognition with the second sentence, if that's okay, because that's the same between all of the officers. And then I would like to give the floor to Detective Richards if he would like to speak, and also to Patrolman Marshall if he would like to say anything, and then also my colleagues as well if they'd like to individually recognize our officers. So whereas I will just say our esteemed officers have served the town excellently as police officers, continually demonstrating exemplary service to the town of Dayton and its residents with great pride and distinction. And whereas our officers recently displayed such exemplary service on November 29th, 2020, for their calm professionalism, compassion, and empathy during what was described as an extreme and unpredictable encounter, which resulted in keeping a resident from taking his own life. And whereas our officers' quick thinking, valiant actions, and unwavering commitment to save others resulted in rescuing a Dayton resident, serving as an example of unparalleled police work, now we, the Board of Selectmen of the town of Dayton, do hereby recognize our officers for their outstanding service to the Dayton Police Department and commend them for going above and beyond the call of duty, in witness whereof we have hereunto set our hands and caused the great seal of the town of Dayton to be affixed on this 16th day of December 2020, the Board of Selectmen of the town of Dayton. And before I open it up to my colleagues, I do want to ask Police Chief McDonald,
Yes.
if you wanted to, the proclamation doesn't describe the situation, so I did want to give the floor to you before we officially commend our officers and hear from them.
Okay. I just want to say on these 4 officers, that day it was very, very a tough situation what they were dealing with. I spoke to Sergeant Cronin after, and I actually spoke to all 4 of them. The next day we had a sit down. We spoke about the situation that they had, how they did it, and what they had to do. So I just want to say that these 4, I want to commend them, the job that they did, went above and beyond, and just regular police work. And I want to say they did a great job. These guys are really good. This job today, we all know, excuse me, is very different now. It's a tough job. Most of the time, you don't get any credit. It's always something negative. But for this is a very positive thing these guys did. They all backed each other up. They did a great job. So I just want to say great job to all these 4 officers, what they did. And the town should be proud of these guys.
Thank you, Chief.
Excuse me.
Yes, when I heard about this, first of all, I was you read about it and you get nervous that, our officers have to respond to what can seem like a volatile situation. But clearly their training and just the types of people that they are, good people who care about other people, led them as a team to de-escalate the situation and essentially save a gentleman's life. And so it's always good to hear that. But what I really appreciate is just knowing that if something were to happen to anyone I know or love in town, that we would have the very best of the best responding, and we would be in the best hands possible. And so I appreciate that very much as a resident and as a selectman. And I did want to ask Patrolman Marshall, if you wanted to make any remarks, I would love to hear from you, and then Detective Richards as well, and then we can go to my colleagues.
How are you?
Good,
Well,
sir.
I think I definitely thank you guys a lot for inviting us on. I could definitely speak for the rest of the guys that were humbled by the certificates. I definitely couldn't come on tonight and not recognize the efforts of Patrolman Ferreira and Sergeant Cronin. They were definitely absolutely integral players in this whole thing. Steve was obviously the first one there. He played a huge role in kind of setting the tone as how the call was going to go. He had showed great compassion, and he had a strong connection with the person, which kind of like paved the way for the rest of us. And obviously Sergeant Cronin there with his leadership, it played a huge piece as far as how we were going to drive our efforts and getting this guy help. And then with the help of Detective Richards, I just think the four of us there, and the way that we kind of took our training more, not as mental health professionals, but, we kind of guided our training rather than just going in there as, police and using force. We were able to talk to this guy, somebody who was in need of help, and get him the help. I won't go into specifics as far as the call goes, because a lot of it is pretty sensitive, but definitely proud that the three other guys that went on the call with me were those guys. But you hear a lot about training. We train pretty extensively. We probably train more than most departments do. And that's all just, it all works from the top of our chain of command on down to the guys. So, hats off to everybody. It definitely was a team effort. It's not something that you get every single day. It's, it was a late in the day type of call. So it's not, every day you think it'd be routine, but this is something that doesn't happen a lot. So, it was good to see the response from all the guys as a whole. So definitely appreciate their efforts and the leadership there.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Very much. Detective Richards, if you would like to give any remarks, you have the floor, sir.
Patrolman Marshall pretty much hit on everything that happened that night, and just the guys we work with, training that we go through. Every call is different.
We appreciate everything you guys do very much. Selectman Pacheco,
Yes.
did you want to commend our heroes? And again, wanting to also commend Sergeant Cronin and Patrolman Ferreira, who are unable to be here this evening. You have the floor, sir.
Of course, I'd like to commend them. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we can't meet in person and shake your hands and congratulate you. But as you know, you more than many of us, when there's a bad cop, it's always in the news, and it probably should be. But when there's good things that good cops do, and the four of you are good cops, good police officers, it's not in the news. So I am very proud of the hard work that you guys do, the difficult situations you put yourself in, you put your life on the line. I appreciate the empathy that all four of you had for this individual. It's not an easy job that you have. As I've said probably too many times, my colleagues will verify that I used to work in the court system as a probation officer. I work with all the 7 police state departments in our jurisdiction, as well as the state police. And I've seen a few bad cops, but mostly the police officers were very good. And we had a situation at the courthouse where there was somebody suffering from mental illness or detoxing or whatever, and we called the local police. I always appreciate it when they showed empathy to these people and didn't crank up the situation. As you know, it's very easy for you to make it a more difficult situation. And you showed us how well you've been trained, all four of you. I, in particular, worked with Sergeant Cronin at the courthouse. He was a representative for Dayton for a little while, at least while I was there. And he was always professional. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here tonight, but all four of you, I can say I'm very proud of what you've done in your representation for the town of Dayton. So thank you again.
Selectman Goulart.
Yes, congratulations to Mike and Ryan and Steve and Sean. Great job, guys. You know, we don't always have great events that we really enjoy doing. Sometimes we have more bad stuff we have to deal with by a selectman than good stuff. But just like the event we had at the VFW in Taunton a few months ago, when we were still able to go out and attend award ceremonies. When I read about this, I was very proud of our police department and happy that we're able to recognize this kind of work, this kind of sacrifice. You know, things are bad enough in normal times, excuse me. But as we know, even if you are not physically ill from this virus, this pandemic, the fact that you cannot move around freely as you're used to doing, whether it's from town to town or state to state or jump on a plane and go to a warm climate, all of that additional pressure and stress has caused a lot of difficult situations for people who could normally handle, let's say, a normal amount of stress. So thank you very much for recognizing the seriousness the seriousness of the event that you encountered, and that you were trained and professional enough to deal with it so that this story does not end in a tragedy. Great job, guys. Thanks a million.
Absolutely. And you had alluded to this, Patrolman Marshall. I think I had spoke to Chief McDonald about this the other day. At least while I'm chairman, and I'm sure the next chair after me, I know it can seem a little bit like a thankless job sometimes what you do. You deal with a lot of difficult things, and I will be better about reaching out to hear about the good things that you're doing, the good things every day that maybe people don't know about. And I will be better about trying to highlight those, not just for the police department, also for fire, public safety, and our other departments as well, just to highlight that positive work that everyone is doing. Just so you know that there are people out there who do appreciate it and are thankful for everything you're doing, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Z?
We
Yes.
appreciate that.
Absolutely, sir. Chief?
Yeah, I just want to, just to the board, I want to thank the Board of Selectmen, excuse me, for recognizing these guys for a job well done. I appreciate the board doing this for them. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And at this time, I will entertain motions to approve the proclamation and certificate of recognition as presented.
So moved.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Gentlemen, my hat is off to you. Thank you for everything you do. I know I'm not alone. I know there are a lot of people in town who support everything you're doing. Keep up the excellent work. The respect you have in town is earned, and it's deserved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. With that, Chief, I think you're still on the line, unfortunately, on the hook here. We have a request for a CARES Act expenditure, and I actually think this might actually also qualify for FEMA funds. And this is for bear with me just a moment, an electrostatic handheld sprayer. And we do have a letter from the police department requesting this item. Did you have anything you wanted to add to what is on the letter here, Chief?
No, it's just, we're looking for this. The reason we're asking for this is, if we bring a prisoner in, we have to, most of the time, we have to call Trauma 24. They have to come down, clean the cell out, especially today because of COVID. If we can get this purchased, we can do it ourselves. We can spray the cells. We can spray the rooms in the police station when we need to. In the cruisers, we can spray the inside of the cruisers. Sometimes the guys have to make transports on certain things. So I think this would be a help for us, for the department.
Thank you, Chief. And I did just, when we bounce around like this, it takes me a while to get the agenda back. So we did get a formal request. It does state it's to sanitize cruisers, that you believe it'll help slow the spread. And then you did attach a quote, and it's for $695. Again, CARES Act covers 25% if eligible, which I do believe, in my understanding, this is. And FEMA, if eligible, can cover the remaining 75%. This is a reimbursement. Chief, if approved, will you make sure to work with the town accountant on submission of these invoices for CARES reimbursement?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. And then I wanted to add, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I feel like someone on the board will ask this. We did approve a couple meetings ago the foggers, the sanitizing foggers. My understanding is the fire department also has their own gun. However, it leaves a slight residue that causes an additional wipe down needed. So my understanding was that this particular electrostatic handheld sprayer will be more efficient as well, with no residue. So I hope I was clear in that understanding.
Yes, you're right.
Thank you,
Yep.
sir.
Yep.
Any discussion on this to my colleagues before I entertain motions?
No, you answered my question. I was wondering if it was the same fire department that we just purchased, so you answered my question. I agree that there's a need for this.
Selectman Goulart, any?
I'm ready to make a motion.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the request of the Dayton Police Department and allow them to purchase a handheld electrostatic sprayer from Land Tech Maintenance at a total cost of $695, and this be submitted for reimbursement under the CARES and/or FEMA reimbursement program.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? I just wanted to thank the chief for listening when we called, asking to get those submissions in before the end of the year, before the deadline. So thank you, sir. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. And Chief, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Board of Selectmen.
Thank you.
Absolutely, sir.
Welcome, Chief.
And I apologize for being tardy to the party, Mr. Commissioner. But next on the agenda under scheduled appointments is, we should just call them appointments at this point, is a status update on the Wi-Fi thermostats. Mr. Commissioner,
Sure.
I know
Yeah.
we have something in our packet about this, but I wanted to yield the floor if you wanted to explain.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Hello, Dayton. Yes, I'd like to report that thanks to the work of Chairman Zagrafis and our former town administrator, Mallory Aronstein, our implementation of the Green Communities grant projects went very well. We worked with Daniel Wegner from Energy Source, and the three projects were Wi-Fi thermostats, LED lighting retrofits, and weatherization. And they all went off very well. The logistics just clicked between him and I, so we're able to work through the town buildings with the support of their occupants. And I'm pleased to say that they are 100% complete with one minor exception of a couple of lights at the Station 2 building. So now it's up to the executive assistant, Mrs. Brady, and I to delve into the apps and come up with a scheduler. So we can start to save money through our heating costs. So I'm actually excited about it. It was a fun project. So thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I can't thank everyone enough. You too, Mr. Commissioner. This was a 2-year, 3-year thing that pretty much we all started talking about when I was elected, first back in 2016. So I sincerely just want to help everyone along the way, the Green Communities Grant Committee. It's a big deal. I know we're sort of town administrator list, so we're obviously not thinking about right now going out for a competitive project-based grant, but just the fact that we completed everything on time, under budget, because there's still money left over, and actually ahead of time, is just a really phenomenal thing. It seldom happens in government. And so I just want to say it's a testament to everybody's hard work. And Mr. Commissioner, don't downplay your role. You had a very significant role, basically managing the projects, and it is greatly appreciated.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm here to help. I enjoy it. I like the challenge.
So we'll wait on any further grants, but just the fact that we finished this and we're eligible for more, I think is really good for the town.
Yeah, I think we have a good handle on it. So by all means, don't let the schedule or the projects we have going on hold it up. As soon as you're ready to move on for more grant funding, do so, and we'll manage them appropriately.
Yeah, we're in no rush, but maybe after the new year or sometime next year, Mr. Commissioner, we'll put our heads together on not just projects that sound good, but projects that would help or address a current problem we might have that we could use grant money for. So we can put our heads together sometime next year.
Yeah, and with the, I believe we're meeting next week for the Building Needs Committee. So with their input, we can probably identify where the deficiencies are. So
absolutely.
Very good.
Thank you, sir. Yep, the floor is still yours, sir.
Okay. Do you we want to move on down the list? No more discussion on that? No.
Nope. You get a very job well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. The next item I want to discuss with the Selectmen. I know you have a long agenda tonight, but this is something that I want to talk out with you. We have another state mandate coming down where the subordinate inspectors, specifically plumbing, gas, and electric, are to have a hands-on application with the issuance of the permits. So up till this point, the permits for those disciplines have been overseen by the administrative assistant and myself, and then approved and then dispatched out to the inspectors when the time comes for site inspections, et cetera, et cetera. What the state is saying is that they want the eyes of the inspectors in the disciplines to actually look at the permit before they're approved. So this has been in the code for not a long time, but some time. But obviously with small communities like ours with per diem inspectors, it's very difficult to ascertain that requirement when they're not physically here. We don't have desks, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So what I did was took the opportunity to open up a dialogue with the state and say, well, most of us are moving to an electronic system. And if we wait until we get the full implementation of such, we could use that tool to have our inspectors approve these permits remotely. So they agreed, but they did want an end all. They wanted to know that, the towns are taking this seriously and they're starting to implement it. So I actually did it in the 2 towns that I'm working with, and it's gone very well. So the system is in place, thanks to the selectmen and the taxpayers for supporting that through the years past. Now I'm at the point where I can't expect these inspectors to do this additional task without compensation. Mm-hmm. So I came up with two answers to that question. The one is increasing the inspection rate. However, that's not my favorite mode, because I am going to have multiple inspectors, or do have multiple inspectors in each discipline, and not every inspector who inspects the work is going to be the one who approves the permits. And I want to do that for a couple reasons. I want some diversity, different sets of eyes looking at things, but my assistant inspectors all seem to not get many inspections because the primaries do such a good job. So I thought this would be a way to maybe have the assistants approve the permits and keep everybody engaged. So if you do it that way, giving them additional funds in their inspection fee wouldn't work, because we may have one person approving a permit, yet that same person may not be inspecting that permit. The second way would be via a stipend, and the stipend would be paid to whomever I've designated as the permit viewer, and that stipend would be twofold. There is some continuing education requirements along with this mandate. So if the selectmen were inclined to do a stipend, that would be my preferred mode. I do know in the past that stipends were sort of frowned upon, so that's why I want us to have an open dialogue. I yield.
Thank you, sir.
So, Mr.
So-
Agia,
I just had one question. I'm sorry, Selectman Goulart. I'm assuming that this mandate was unfunded, correct?
Of course it is.
Okay. The only kind, right?
When do they ever fund anything?
I mean, I appreciate you, trying to think of, I don't even know what the word is, like less harmful ways of passing on, incurring or absorbing that additional cost.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's not, our, I guess, decision. It's just something that the state hands to the town and says, here.
Right.
So I'm interested to hear how what my colleagues think the best way forward on this is, given our options.
Sure. I one comment before we move on.
Yeah,
so what my thought was is that, that my office is revenue based on permit fees, is that, I think I have a pretty good handle on costs right now. So I would reassess this in 12 months. And if I need to adjust the fees because of this mandate, I'll do so to make sure we stay, in the green. I certainly don't want this to burden the taxpayers. It should be paid by whomever is obtaining the permit.
Sure. I mean, I don't disagree with that. And my other thought is everyone hates raising fees, but when was the last time a fee was even raised regarding plumbing, gas, or electric, Mr. Commissioner?
2012.
Yeah, and the Board of Health seems to need to do it every couple years. So I hate raising fees, but if we need to come up with a, revenue to pay for this additional unfunded thing, then that's one of the alternatives. Selectman Goulart, I know you had a comment.
Yeah, I'll start out with Dr. Z.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, the only people who have authority to issue unfunded mandates are not cities and towns. It's only our state
we're tasked with balancing every budget.
Yes,
correct.
they only those unfunded mandates only flow in one direction.
Downhill.
Unfortunately, yes. So, Mr. Agia, my question was, let us assume the 3 selectmen are really inspectors. So let's say Mr. Pacheco is going to issue a permit for plumbing, and I'm the one that's actually going to inspect the work. So what would the order be? Would Mr. Pacheco write it out and give it, or would I be involved initially? Or could you just explain that?
Sure. So that's the great part about the electronic permitting software that we've implemented. The application for permit is submitted electronically. We still do paper, but that paper becomes electronic, if need be. So let's presume that in this case it was an electronic permit that was submitted. That permit would be submitted. The office manager would still review that permit for completeness. Once that permit is set for completeness, it's tasked off to the appropriate inspector. That inspector then reviews it and either approves or denies with comments. Let's presume that this is a well-seasoned plumber who's worked in town before. He knows what we're looking for. The permit is approved. That permit becomes live to all of my subordinate inspectors. When they log in, they have access to that permit. So if Inspector B, or you, in this case, was inspecting a permit that Mr. Pacheco approved, you have real-time access to that permit, so you know exactly what you're inspecting.
Okay. And then, for example, if, who would I tell, or how would I indicate I'm going to take this inspection and complete it? Do I do that electronically?
Yes, everything's electronic. I have iPads supplied to all my inspectors. They do that all electronically. It's a flawless system, and everything is real time. So once my inspectors input the inspection into the system, is a pass or fail, the contractor is either notified via email or can check their account and know exactly where they stand. It's worked out really well. I'm very happy and proud of it.
Okay,
so go ahead.
So, all right, so I go online and say, I'll do the inspection. And then at the last minute, something happens and I go back online and say, hey, I'm sorry, something came up and I can't do that. If Dr. Z were to go online and he's an inspector too, he can say, hey, I can take care of this one. And that would just flow to him and he would do that inspection.
Yeah, there's a tasking module in the system where things can be tasked off to each other, but only by authorized users. So you would need to be an authorized user.
Right.
Presuming I allow the selectmen to be users.
No, we wouldn't be selectmen in this case. We were all plumbers or inspectors.
Please don't do that, Jim.
I know.
No, we would. In my scenario, we were all qualified plumbers.
I know.
So, all right. So, plumber Pacheco issued it. Turns out that plumber Zagrafis inspected it. Plumber Pacheco, he would receive a fee for issuing it, but the inspection fee or a stipend, whatever you want to call it, would be paid to plumber Zagrafis.
Well, no. In my proposal, what I'm asking is that all of my per diem inspectors are paid a flat fee for an inspection once it's conducted. That stays intact. I don't want to touch that.
Okay.
I'm happy with the rate. It works very well, and I think and it's in line with what other towns are paying. What I'm saying is that based on the qualifications of the inspector and their ability to easily navigate an electronic device, because reviewing a permit is a little more intricate than just going in and passing or failing an inspection. That person would be paid, in this case, Mr. Pacheco would be paid a stipend. For that stipend, he's responsible for the entire calendar year to approve, deny, or deny with comments all of the permits that are tasked off to him.
Okay.
So my question is, how is that different from the past then? Who inspected that permit in the past?
So in the past, the permits were issued here by myself and the office manager. What the state is saying, and the plumbing inspector, gas inspector, electrical inspector, all had an ability to review that permit when they did the inspection. What the state is saying is the permit must bear their signature. They need to be the one who actually approves it before any work can start. That's not happening in most of the communities in the Commonwealth. This is what they're trying to get everyone to do. So to do that, there's an extra step in the process where the inspector has to actually review the permit before it's approved.
So in the past, then, you would review the permit?
Right.
Or your
right.
assistant would review it? And now
right. Exactly.
It's an inspector that will be doing it now. And they can
exactly.
Do it
And when I raised it, it's a good question. And of course, you know me, I just don't lay down. I told the state that these people all work for me. My commissioner's license is not just in buildings, it's in plumbing, gas, electrical.
Correct.
I have all the codes under my belt. And their response to me was, quite frankly, not every building official has the competence level that we think that should be approving or denying permits. And I couldn't argue with that. We happen to have a flawless record. We've never issued a permit erroneously. So, we're doing our job. But I can understand their argument that not every building official may have the competency level to approve them.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm more inclined to increase the fees for the permits.
Me too.
Since, it's the people who want the inspection or want the permit. It's not all the residents in town that are doing that, it's that particular person. So
Correct.
I'm more in favor of doing that, and how we compensate the different people that work for you. I'm not sure how we want to do that, but I would.
So let me explain to you what my quagmire is, and I'm fine with that. For instance, my primary plumbing and gas inspector, James Sine, came in. He's semi-retired. He's excellent. I didn't know if he was going to be interested in staying because we're a busy town. He loves it here, loves the plumbers, loves the people, loves the residents, loves the town, loves our office. So he wants to stay. Yeah. Unfortunately, he's not really electronically savvy. So he told me straight out, he's not going to be able to go through the iPad and approve or disapprove permits. So I don't want to put pressure on him, make it stressful, and make him not want to be here any longer. My assistant, on the other hand, is a whiz with electronics. So maybe we can do a change in the inspection fee and maybe a separate allowance for an inspector who reviews permits. That might be in order. That's why I wanted to have a discussion with you.
Yes.
So I guess my question is, Selectman Pacheco, are you suggesting and I guess you too, Mr. Commissioner, are you suggesting a flat? And I guess maybe we don't need to figure the second part out. Maybe we are all in agreement on tonight at least, the raising of fees, as is somewhat standard with fees in any, department. But are you suggesting a flat fee for the reviewer of the permit, Mr. Commissioner?
I was. We do about 500 permits a year in each of those disciplines. It averages out almost spot on for the last 10 years. So I know exactly how long it takes to approve a permit because I do it every day. Mm-hmm. So I was going to ask for a stipend, an annual stipend of $1,500 to cover the 500 permits to be reviewed by a specific inspector. Now, if that inspector did do inspections, then that would go back to the per diem rate that we pay all the inspectors right now in addition to. So this $1,500 was going to be to cover for them to work from home, their office, wherever they are, here even, on the electronic device to approve or deny the permits.
And so essentially that would be $3 a permit, right?
Right.
One last question, I promise, about this anyway. Does a permit inspector, I don't know what the title is, so that's what I'm calling it. Do they ever have to re-inspect the same permit? And then does that incur an additional cost? And I know this isn't the same as going back out because someone failed a food permit.
Right.
Didn't pass that and they need a re-inspection. This isn't a site visit, but does that ever happen?
So it's a great question. And ironically, I have to give kudos to my staff. Mm-hmm. It's very rare that I get a permit that the office manager has verified where I deny it. Usually it's a very, very technical problem that I deny the permit on. And no belittling to the subordinates. their permits are a lot more forthright than mine. Mine includes zoning and setbacks and all that other stuff, whereas plumbing and electrical, basically it's a fixed account, and then just make sure the units are mass compliant. So it's a good question. The option, the fact that would happen would be extremely rare.
Okay. I mean, I have no issue with this. Mr. Commissioner, are you wanting us to decide, and then I want to go to Selectman Goulart because I feel like she has something to add. Are you wanting us to decide on both fees and possible addition of a stipend for a permit reviewer, or are you wanting us to decide on one or the other tonight?
I wanted your feedback on this, and then I wanted to formally request from the board. It sounds to me like a fee adjustment may be in order, and I'm fine doing that. You raised the point, and this is why I wanted to discuss it with you. You raised the point about what if, if I have a stipend paid to one individual, yet the other inspector that I have has to review permits. There has to be some compensation for that as well. So I don't want to overcomplicate things, but I think I have to take your recommendations and give you a formal request.
This is the right time to do this, because if the board were, and I'm not speaking for anyone because we haven't decided, if the board were amenable to a stipend, that, we're getting to the point where later in our agenda, we're going to discuss, FY22 budget season kickoff. And now is the time to have this conversation. Selectman Goulart, did you have anything?
Yeah, I would support increasing fees if they haven't been raised for 8 years, long overdue. The other thing is, before we can actually vote to establish the newer fee, it's customary to announce it 3 times at 3 successive meetings. So if we could at least determine what the new fee would be, if we could determine that tonight, this could be the first announcement. So I don't know.
It's a little more complicated than that. My fee schedule isn't that simple. I definitely would need to revise it and submit it to you.
Okay.
You're talking about the fees charged.
Yes.
That's going to be a little more complicated. So I think, moving forward, if a stipend is an option, then I think what I would do is formally request it in writing.
Correct.
And take your comments tonight into consideration on compensation for the other inspectors without a stipend, and then also submit a fee schedule for revision, which you can act on the stipend or the pay portion of it, and then you can take the fee increase over the next 3 meetings or the subsequent 3 meetings, and in the end, we'll end up with a fee raise.
I think that's fine, and I think as the Board of Health does when they want us to consider or review a fee schedule, they do present that to us, on paper. So you beat me to the punch, Mr. Commissioner.
Okay. I just wanted your input and see how the board felt about it, because this is new. The towns are all dealing with this, except for the municipalities who have full-time subordinate inspectors. It was easy for them to comply. It's the smaller towns with per diem guys who don't have office hours, or men and women who, really have to scratch their heads and figure out how to figure this out. And the implementation of the electronic software was the blessing here. And, except for the compensation part, which we're discussing, the other side of it, it's easy.
I agree, sir. Is the board, before we move on, because we're not going to, obviously, we don't have any specifics to vote on this evening, but is the general consensus of the board that we are amenable to possible changes in the current fee schedule for the services that we're discussing? Electric, right? Plumbing, gas?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll look at my fee schedule too, because it's been 8 years since I did those too.
Of course. That's fine. I have no opposition to that. And then we will also, can you prepare us a little bit of information on these potential stipends, just some specifics, so we can just start negotiating?
Absolutely.
Okay. Or discussing, you know what I mean. Thank you, sir. So
thank you.
Is this clear enough for you? And then Selectman Pacheco?
Okay. It's all right with me.
Yes, it's okay with me. I just want to make a comment that
Mhm.
this past summer, I got a permit electronically, and I just want to compliment the building department for how easy it was to use that system.
Oh,
Nice.
thank you.
Was it
Thank
easier
you.
than the old system, Selectman Pacheco?
It was electronically. It was I was able to do it online. I got an email saying that the permit's all set, print it up. He didn't have to go down to town hall. I had to go down to the town hall to pay for it because right now we don't have a system for that, unfortunately.
Yep.
But other than that, it was a very easy system. So I appreciate
Perfect.
what they've done.
I like to hear that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think we have a we just don't have specifics, but it sounds like
Right.
there's a general consensus, Mr. Commissioner.
Okay, thank you very much for talking that out with me, and I'll get something to you sometime in January on this for a meeting then.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Well, do we have to give him, do we have to act on approval of which camera system? Because we talked about getting
Oh
the
yeah.
system.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk about that now. Right.
Okay, I thought you were leaving.
I'm not going anywhere. No,
Okay.
not until I'm
Drop off
dismissed.
this call.
Okay.
You have the floor, still. Sir.
Okay. So, yes, I was tasked with the doing some diligence on security camera systems, and rightfully so, because, you know, in today's day and age, we all think about, you know, Wi-Fi and its abilities. I myself have cameras at home. I don't use them, but Cheryl tracks her wildlife every night on them, and they work well, but they do have some dependability concerns or reliability concerns. So I did give you something in the packet. I don't know, have you all read it? Or were you able to skim through it?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so obviously, based on my letter, you can see that I'm preferring a wired system over a wireless system. And I even included a pros and cons thing, sheet that I found on the web, which solidified some of my concerns. Cost-wise, I think they're both pretty similar. The wired system is slightly more, but it's marginal based on the reliability and the access to the video that we'll get. And both are going to require the town electrician. Let's stick with the wired system. The wired system basically is tethered by cables from the cameras to the hard drive setup. And then the wireless systems, although they're battery operated and Wi-Fi enabled, there's no way we can conceivably recharge batteries, even if the batteries state that they last, 30, 60 days. So I would only be in support of wireless if we installed receptacles to plug these cameras in so they could be, tap into the AC at all times. And then the other thing is the wireless system. I don't know if we would have gaps or holes in our connectivity, which may require us to put repeaters in. So I think all in all, we're looking at, for the two buildings, I think if I did my math right, we're looking at somewheres around $8,500 would be the ceiling, including the town.
That's probably a ballpark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to remark on the batteries. So my understanding is you can find, and I'm not proclaiming that the models I'm speaking about are top of the line, but you can get commercially available wireless, cameras like that are connected through the Wi-Fi and are motion activated, on Amazon, for example. That's what I have, advocated to get here in my home. And we have.
Okay.
My issue with them and why I agree with you that we should go with the wired ones, even though it's a little more expensive, Mr. Commissioner, is because I have had instances, even though the batteries last 2 years, and that's great. The problem is that the motion detector thing that's hooked up through the Wi-Fi sometimes doesn't work. And so there have been times that I've walked by and then the camera never turned on like it was supposed to. You get a notification. And so I'm going to advocate, even though it is more expensive, for the wired ones. My understanding is that they're pretty much recording all the time, and so there's less of a glitch that can occur in lapse in recording. And so I'm gonna agree with the building commissioner based on what I know,
Yeah.
and support for town hall, not for my home, obviously. The
Right.
wired ones.
Yeah, that's the same thing I found out, that the reliability of the wired system was paramount.
Mhm.
And the fact that you actually have all of the video on a hard drive in-house, and I think right now they're up to 2 terabytes of video, which
Mhm.
in my research, it's a couple to 3 months worth of video, but you can also transfer that video onto thumb drives. So, if we had an incident, and I did find that they were easily queried, so, we could go by date and time. So, we weren't sifting through days of video if something occurred.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so thank you.
One last question, and then I want to open it up to my colleagues just before I forget. So with the wired ones, because I don't know that much about these, Mr. Commissioner, how does the
Yep.
recording work? Is it automatically backed up on like a hard, I don't know what to call it, hard drive?
Yes. So there's actually a DVR, a video recorder, and so each building will have their own,
Mhm.
and the cameras connected to it would actually transfer the video to that hard drive, so we actually have something tangible that we can. And you can access the video through an app. You can access it through a monitor. There's a few different ones. I didn't delve into it that deeply until I knew which way the board wanted to go. But,
Sure.
Certainly, we're going to try to make this as user-friendly as possible.
And yep, yeah, Mr. Pacheco, sir.
Yeah, you said you had no more questions, so that's why
You're right.
So my question is on the wired system. If there is, right now we have the wireless at the house here, so I get notified when something happens. Unfortunately, I get notified when the flag moves in front of me. But this system, the wired system, if there is some problem going on, somebody's trying to break into one of the buildings, does somebody get an alert, or do we just find out once we discover there's been a break, we go back and look at the tape, versus the wireless system where you get notified, I get something buzzing on my phone, lets me know something's going on.
Yep.
Right.
How does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I knew that would be something that we would be interested in, because obviously we want to know what's happening in real time so we can, combat it. So there are systems that do enable that. So we would have to be very conscious about which ones we did. And that's why I had the range. I found that the, 4 camera unit up was, over $1,000 had that capability. So I agree, it's a good point, and we would want to make sure that we have that, still have that ability, because the wirelesses are extremely user-friendly. We're not debating that. So we don't want to lose the ability to have that access, and I would look for a system that does that.
So we
I
get
agree, Mr.
real-time
Commissioner.
notification then.
Mhm. You
Right.
want the real-time notification?
Yes.
I agree we should try to get it. If we, for whatever reason, can't find a hardwired camera that has it, I think I'm okay with that, simply because we still have the alarm system, like the good old-fashioned that National will call you, if there's a break-in.
Right.
So we still
Right.
have that. But yes,
Right.
I agree. The whole point is,
And
you want that app. But like I said, we have a security system, so we'll be notified.
Right.
Selectman Goulart?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm listening to duplicate systems, and this is not the way to go. Cameras are fine. Monitor outside the building, no problem with that. I certainly supported expanding it.
Mm-hmm.
My thought is, why don't we see what we can do with our alarm company with outside cameras and just add them to the existing system? Because we get notified if there is if an alarm gets tripped, we get notified. So we don't need another system that's going to send us another message for whatever reason. But if we can add video to the existing system, it might be a better way to go. Now, we have an alarm system. We have systems at both buildings. So I would think, I mean, video surveillance is not new. So have we checked with National to find out if they can expand it? I know they could, years ago, we looked at expanding it inside the building when we actually had a couple of, I think I told you about episodes where somebody came into the building and disrupted things or became threatening. It wasn't added inside at the time, but since we're looking at this particular system, my question is it cheaper to just add video surveillance to the existing alarm system so we have a comprehensive system that handles both video and detects break-ins and all those other things and sends the notice out because it's a monitored system and it's hardwired into the appropriate I'll call it call center, even at town.
Yeah, I want to be, we have a hearing at 7:30, so we have a hard stop. That's actually a very good point though, Selectman Goulart. I don't mean actually, that's a very good point. It probably, my thought, just knowing, because I helped coordinate the security system installation with Mrs. Brady at the animal control, animal shelter. I suspect if they do allow this service, it's much more costly than probably what the building commissioner is talking about. But I see no harm in getting a quote, just as he would, for the wired cameras.
Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I preferred hardwired. Yeah. I mean, as we have seen when we've done our Zoom meetings, hardwired systems work better just for that particular application. I can also tell you, the car I drive now finds Wi-Fi systems. So help me, they out of space.
Yeah.
When I'm in the parking lot at Town Hall, it comes and goes. I'm not even moving, but I can see it on the screen telling me when I have Wi-Fi and when I don't. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, so I can do that. I certainly want to buy these and make sure they hit on all the check marks, check all the boxes. So let me reach out to our security company, get a price from them, and then we can talk about this again.
Yep, that sounds good. But I don't consider this like, it's a little extra work in the sense of it's an extra quote you have to get, but we were going to have to get quotes and choose a camera system anyway. So I think that's a good point. But like I said, I do suspect it will be more costly than what you were thinking about, Mr. Commissioner.
Right.
Just on experience.
I'll try to get that to you before the Christmas break because I will be away for a little bit. Yep. But, I'll do my best. If I don't, I'll at least send you an email that I wasn't able to, and we can bring this back up when I return. Okay?
And I don't have the particulars of your well-deserved vacation in front of me, Mr. Commissioner, but you do deserve one, so I'm glad you're taking one.
Thank you.
And more importantly, our next meeting is not until January 13th, so really no rush on this. If you want to do your due diligence, I'm okay with that.
Okay, I'm back that week, so that's perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Sir. And last but not least, and we're not going to take a vote on that simply because we don't have particulars. We don't have, a quote or ideas on pricing.
Right.
Do you want to give very briefly the status update on the town auction before our 7:30 hearing?
Yes, I will be very pithy. Everything went. We did very, very well. We have one holdover that was bought, purchased, paid for, and never picked up. So right now it's considered abandoned property. It's still town property. I haven't brought it to the board because, it's something that we want to get rid of, and I'm hoping that maybe the person finally reaches out to me and just wants to pick up it's a trailer, it's a small piece. But other than that, everything is gone. The titles are all been released. And I'll make sure that the town accountant has an accurate list of actually what we sold.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
I'm looking forward to I hope the selectmen would support it. I'd like to do this every year. That way we don't have an accumulation of items, surplus items at the transfer station. I think it's been very beneficial.
Agreed, sir.
Is the total 30,620?
That sounds accurate, correct.
One last question, the house.
The house is slated to be demolished next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Everyone be safe. Don't go anywhere. Stay home.
Yeah, we will. We will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, sir. Okay, we're in a pickle because we have 2 minutes, and I doubt that the 6:40 thing is going to be a 2-minute thing. And it falls under discretion. Do we have any public input in general? Anything not on the agenda? Okay, all right. I guess we could read the announcements. Selectman Pacheco, did you want to read the announcements?
Sure. And there's a few. Town Hall and Old Town Hall are closed to the public. All in-person meetings are canceled. All committee meetings shall be held remotely via Zoom. All Council on Aging, primetime, and library programs that are currently scheduled at Old Town Hall will be canceled until further notice. The library will still offer curbside service. Payments or correspondence can be left either in the outside drop box located by the walkway at the entrance of Town Hall or the one in front of Old Town Hall. Payments may also be made by mail and online via the town website, www.dighton-ma.gov. Signage will be placed at all playgrounds, basketball courts, and the track behind Town Hall, informing the public that the use of masks is mandatory. There may be a $500 fine for non-compliance. The next one, I believe, has been changed. It says there's no changes in trash pickup or recycling, but it is my understanding that tomorrow there will be no trash or pickup.
Yep.
Recycling.
Good catch.
And the schedule will be, Thursday's schedule will be this Friday, and Friday's schedule will be this Saturday. Is that correct, Todd? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think you might be muted though, Todd.
Yeah, that's all right. There is a townwide parking ban in effect for April 1st, 2021. No person shall allow their vehicle to be parked on the street so as to obstruct snow removal. And we do have a storm coming in tonight, I'm told. The town of Dayton's Dayton Food Bank distribution will be held next on December 19, 2020, located at Town Hall, 979 Somerset Avenue, lower level, and it's a drive-through. The Dayton Lions Club presents a silent auction, 3 cords of wood, starting bid at $250 and bid increments of $25. Place your bids at Arujos Farms, 1522 William Street, or private message www.facebook.com/Arujos Farms. Bidding closes on December 20th, 2020 at 5 p.m. Proceeds help the Dayton Lions Club supports the Dayton community. Hannaford's Food Reusable Bag Program, the Dayton Historical Society will receive a $1 donation when you buy a $250 reusable community bag at the Hannaford located in Taunton, Mass. During the month of January 2021. As I've mentioned before, I am a member and officer of the Dayton Historical Society, so if anybody needs to know that. But I would encourage people to purchase these bags. And
Thank you.
That's it on announcements.
Thank you. And I will entertain a motion to open the hearing for a liquor license transfer for 1995 Winthrop LLC.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, someone is echoing. If you're not speaking, do you mind muting yourself, please? Okay, I see who it is. Okay. All right, so I think we have the applicant here. I don't have anything in my packet, so Mrs. Brady, or does anyone care to explain what this transfer is, please?
Hi, this is for a transfer of a liquor license, just a basic transfer from Winthrop Street Gas, Mr. Patel being the president, to George Grige, if I understand this correctly. Okay. And it's just a basic transfer. Nothing else is being transferred but the license. No changes to the building. Very straightforward.
Okay, can INP 000, can you change your name to a real name so we have a record just for the public meeting?
Apologize, I'm not sure if I can change it on my phone, but I can say it out loud if that's helpful.
Sure. What's your name?
It's Attorney Ian Hedges, IAN. Last name is Hedges.
Awesome. Thank you.
1995.
I got you. Thank you, sir. Did you want to speak to this request for a liquor license transfer?
Sure. So I think it was summarized nicely there. Just a straightforward transfer from the current owner to 1995 Winthrop. The sole member of the LLC, George Dreesh, he has significant experience in the retail industry. He's tip certified as well. And the proposed manager of the license, Kamal Hakim, not yet tip certified, but he's planning on doing so once the license is officially transferred and approved by the APCC.
And and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name
You can call me George. If that's...
Okay. Well, thank you. I like being on a first name basis, George. Did you have anything that you wanted to add before we entertain questions from the Board of Selectmen, sir?
No, actually, as everybody stated, it's a straightforward transfer of beer and wine. Actually, we call it liquor license. It's just beer and wine license, not a full liquor license. And I've been in the retail business for a very, very long time. I was certified before to handle liquor. I never had any other licenses, though. This is my first license. But I was certified to handle selling liquors and serving liquors.
All right. Thank you very much, both of you, Attorney Hedges and George as well. Selectman Pacheco, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I thought the attorney indicated that you had other liquor licenses. Is that correct or not correct?
I do not have any other liquor license.
Okay, that was my only question, whether there was been any infractions on any prior licenses that you had, but apparently there aren't any because you didn't have any. So all set. Thank you.
Selectman Goulart?
The license is being transferred. Is the ownership of the business being transferred?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I acquired the whole business, and it includes the beer and wine license.
Oh yeah, everything. The gas station, the food concession, the little convenience store, everything.
And the lottery, everything.
Everything. The laundry?
Lottery.
Oh, lottery.
No laundry, no.
That is laundry too.
Well, there was
a laundromat in town.
No, but there was a car wash at one time. Wasn't there a car wash?
Yeah, the car wash building's still there. No equipment. We're planning on bringing it back.
Okay, I had visions of that car wash becoming a laundromat. The other question is, do you have ownership in Route 44 Liquors right up the road, or is that a separate business?
Route 44 what?
Liquors.
No.
No, separate business. Okay.
Separate, and it's not, I'm not associated in any way with it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further questions from the board? And I actually have no questions.
No.
Sounds very straightforward to me. Hearing no questions from my colleagues, I will entertain motions regarding the liquor license transfer of 1995 Winthrop LLC.
Yeah, I can't make a motion. I don't have anything in front of me. I don't know who we're transferring it from and to, so.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we grant the request to transfer the liquor license for 1995 Winthrop Street LLC from, attorney, would you give us the name of the current owner?
Sure, it's Winthrop Gas Corporation.
From Winthrop Gas Corporation to, what's the new one going to be called?
1995 Winthrop LLC.
To 1995 Winthrop LLC as requested.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it and that motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Attorney Hedges. And thank you, George, for joining. If you need anything else from the Board of Selectmen, please don't hesitate to reach out, okay?
Thank you very much. Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Good luck.
Good luck. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Be safe.
gentlemen.
Happy holidays.
You as
Thank
well.
you. You
sir.
too.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Pilling, our health agent, Todd Pilling, for being very patient. We're a little behind schedule, but you do have an update for us on the COVID-19 grant expenditures. You have the floor, sir, and thank you for joining.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Yes, so the CARES grant runs out at the end of December. We have heard this week that the governor is giving out another $10 million to local boards of health. It hasn't said how it's going to be distributed, when it's coming, et cetera, but presumably it'll pick up where CARES Act leaves off. In the meantime, we did get that small grant for $1,300 that was awarded on December 2nd. It has to be spent by the end of December. We're spending that money very quickly. We're spending an awful lot of time doing contact tracing, an awful lot of calls, trying to follow up with people not calling us back, had to go deliver letters to people's houses. It's been a lot of work to keep up with it. And just for the record, the Bristol County is the worst county in Massachusetts. So apparently we need to be putting more effort into getting people to be social distant and wear their masks.
I mean, it's self-explanatory. I understand.
Todd, is the town nurse also helping you with the tracing?
So she is, she's not doing most of the calls, but every day she's consulting us because we get a lot of cases that we don't know what to do with. You know, somebody that may be in the hospital, or somebody got a positive and then a negative and then a positive, and or things that don't line up with lab testing. So every day we're on the phone where they're going over our problem children. So, but she's not actually actively making calls unless it gets into a category of something that we can't handle. And there have been a few of those that she needs to step in and deal with them directly.
Thank you.
I did want to add to my colleagues for what it's worth. I spoke to a friend of mine who has a relative who unfortunately is in the healthcare field, did contract COVID-19, did receive a call from Mr. Pilling. So I can verify that they're cranking out that contact tracing. So I want to thank you for that.
I hope it's making a difference.
You know, we're doing everything we can. I think we are setting the appropriate example, Mr. Pilling. Everything's closed to the public. We've put out memoranda to wear your masks. There is a fine. We obviously don't have the staff to enforce everything. Obviously, we want to focus on the contact tracing. But I just want to say, if numbers go up, if cases increase, as they always do, then I can honestly say that I feel like we have put our best step forward as a town, and we have set the appropriate example, which I think is all we really can do in a global pandemic, to be honest, as a little town. Did you need a specific vote, sir? I know we don't have specifics on the next round of grants. Do you need, I know the grant is dwindling. Obviously, it was only $1,300. Are you needing a tacit approval of continuing overtime beyond 40 hours?
Well, again, right now we have the grant that is allowing that, but that'll run out, assuming by Christmas, which I know is only next week. You know, I'm assuming the governor's thing is going to kick in January 1st. Again, I don't know how much money is there. You know, if the board wants to, I mean, the office manager and I are willing to put in the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's wearing us down. But you know, if it's something the board sees the need for and the funds are available, then, you know, I'd say yes. But it's only to cover us until the other grant kicks in. So
the only reason I'm even So it wasn't clear to me if this was just, so I apologize. I asked because it wasn't clear if this was an update or if action was needed. I will note to my Board of Selectmen colleagues, our next meeting is January 13th. So, you know, it's a month. It's 4 weeks.
Well, that was
my
why
con-
we put me on the agenda, is just in case we knew there was no money coming, what were we gonna do? So.
Correct. And that's what kind of, I sense that. I sense that there's a gap, and that's why there's an urgency to want to be on the agenda tonight. So I guess, you know, I put the agenda together. I don't run the show here. So Selectman Goulart, Selectman Pacheco, what are your thoughts on this? And again, the work's getting done. The person I am aware of was called back within 2 to 3 days, which is a lot better than what was happening before the office manager and the health agent assumed that contact tracing duty. So you have the floor.
My thought is that we need to do something to, I'll say, bridge the gap between ending the current grant and anticipation of the next grant. And the bridge should be at least until our next selectmen's meeting. So what I'm thinking about is that we should consider authorizing Mr. Pilling and Mrs. Grassi to continue to do the contact tracing through at least the next selectmen's meeting, and with an anticipation that we will use grant funding to pay for that extra time, but with the understanding, if for some reason we don't get enough money or any money to cover that overtime, at least they have the authority to work through our next meeting. I can't see us stopping the service because we don't know if we're going to get grant money, because the problem is still here. And we said we would do whatever was necessary to protect the people in this town. So I'm looking for a bridge, quite frankly.
My concern is that that's not the agenda item that's on the agenda, to extend the time for Todd and Roz. So I'm a little concerned about that. There clearly is a need for it.
Yeah, we can't vote. We definitely can't vote.
Yes.
I agree, Selectman Pacheco. But I feel like
I think we can indicate to Mr. Pillings that we support the increase in the hours come January, whether or not CARES money comes through, and that we will address it at our next meeting and make it retroactive, I guess. But it should be an agenda item that we can discuss. But clearly there's a need for it. So.
Yeah, it's not explicit on the agenda, but this grant, COVID grant, is like kind of wrapped up in the, so, but I agree, we can't formally act, but I think we can give a consensus, not a consensus, but like a general agreement, I guess, a tacit agreement that the work does need to get done. And like I said, it is getting done, which is a good thing. I know you've had to make some difficult calls, Mr. Pilling. Firsthand, I know. Not easy calls. Not to tell people you can do this, you can't do that. You got to stay home for X, Y. You know, my hat goes off to you on that. I have no issue. If we get a grant in the new year, we can always correct whatever may be paid out in this interim period to have it end up being diverted from the grant when that happens.
As long as it's above and beyond the normal work schedule, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I don't think we can say really anymore, just because like we can't really take a vote. Like,
I understand.
No, but that's the bridge I was looking for.
Yeah.
Even without a formal vote, that's all I was looking for, is continuation of services to the public. And we'll figure out the money when we know if and when and how much we're going to get for a grant.
Sure. Yep. And Mrs. Brady, if you could please add that to our, and specifically put wording such as vote to authorize retroactively, blah, blah, blah. Is that okay?
Sure, no problem.
Thank you. sir, you're still on the hook. I know you have a discretionary spending request for a new roll-off container. I did review it, and maybe I didn't look closely enough. What exactly is it for? I know it's for storage, but is it for something specific?
So up at the transfer station, they have the bins that people toss. One of them's got electronics, another one's metal, another one's recycling, et cetera, et cetera. But over time, they'll get dents or holes and rust out or whatever. We're looking to buy a new one because we have grant money, and we're using the grant money to buy a new roll-off container. There are 2 others that are damaged that we are going to be looking to repair with the next round of grant money we get.
Is that a guarantee, Mr. Pilling, every year? I know you got it, so congratulations, that's great.
It's not, obviously it's not guaranteed because grant money is sometimes there and sometimes not.
Yeah.
Generally it's guaranteed, it's just how much money we get is what it comes down to. Because DEP might get 10 million, they might get 15 million, and they split it up based on the number of points you have. Us doing the textile recycling program got us an extra point, for example. So pay as you throw is worth 3 points, and it all adds up. So
the amount that the grant is next year will determine whether you need 1 or 2, or whether you can purchase 1 or 2, I guess.
Well, not purchase, repair. There's 2 that are worth repairing, but we wanted to buy another one because not all the roll-offs up there are ours. Some of them are Borges's. So we need to make sure we have our own roll-offs up there too. So, but that's all. Again, it's grant money we're spending. It's not our own money.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions. Selectman Pacheco, did you have any?
No, I think Todd answered all my questions I would have had.
Selectman Goulart.
I'm all set.
If there are no further questions from the board, I will entertain motions.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we grant the request of the Board of Health to acquire a new roll-off container with grant funds in the amount of, Mr. Pilling, do you know what it's going to cost?
4,000. Is it 4,600, Mr. Pilling? No, I could be wrong.
It's in that ballpark, but I don't remember the exact amount.
4,600. Does that sound?
Yeah, that's what I see. And there's $6,257.21 in grant funds available.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. For $4,600 as requested.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Pilling, I don't want to have to take a vote on this again because it would delay you getting the container, the department. 4,600, I'm just asking because it's an even number, and usually when you buy things, it's never even. Is that enough? Or should there be a vote like up to a maximum of to have a little cushion?
I believe in your packet was the estimate that we got a price. And that should be in your packet.
That's what I was looking
Yep,
for.
it is 4,600. You're correct. That's weird. Okay, it's just a straight 4,600. Okay. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Mr. Pilling, thank you so much for taking time from the fun times of COVID contact tracing to spend time with us tonight.
Cool.
We appreciate what you're doing. Please let Mrs. Grassi know as well that we appreciate her. Okay?
Well, is there anything else you need me for tonight? I don't see anything on here.
Not unless you want to spend time with us, but no, not tonight.
Not anymore, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Have a good night. Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda, Mrs. Brady, did we have any additional discretionary spending requests?
We do not.
Okay. Did we have any public input? I know I went to it before, but I did want to ask before we move on, is there any public input for anything unrelated to something that may be discussed on this evening's agenda?
I have a potential for a future agenda, if it's okay.
Sure.
I happened to pick up a copy of the Middleborough Gazette, which is a weekly paper that comes out obviously from Middleborough.
Mm-hmm.
The front page story was about how Middleborough and Carver got together and named the bridge on a street that the bridge is the boundary between these two communities. The bridge has been named in honor of 2 Medal of Honor winners from Middleborough and 1 from Carver. I happened to, and I will bring this paper in and leave it with Mrs. Brady for a future agenda item. I was talking to Mr. Ferry about it because, as you know, he pursued the signs that we have. And what I want to ask the board to consider as an agenda item is that the town of Dayton name the Elm Street Bridge over the Segregansett River in honor of Frederick Anderson. And when you think about that river, on Brook Street, you have the Clinton Rose Bridge. You would have in the middle the Frederick Anderson Bridge. And on 138, you've got the John Van Guysen Bridge. And Mr. Ferry and I thought that was an interesting combination to recognize veterans. So I will bring the paper in, give it to Mrs. Brady, but I just wanted to let you guys know that it wasn't an original idea. I just happened to see the paper and I thought of Mr. Anderson and discussed it with Mr. Ferry. So I will bring that in, just something to think about.
Thank you, Selectman Goulart. Just one thing, I obviously was not an elected official or an appointed official at the time that the bridges that you mentioned previously were named or dedicated. I don't know if there's any procedure or process, but let's get that delineated so that we do it right and we do it one time at our next meeting, okay?
You were on board, I thought, for the Clint Rose Bridge, because Jack Taylor was, I remember Jack Taylor was there.
Yeah, but was Jack Taylor there as the veterans agent, maybe?
I think, yeah, I've never been to, the only dedication I've been to was with you, Selectman Goulart, and it might have been Selectman Pacheco might have been on board, was the Frank G. Costa Memorial Park.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yes, I said to Mr. Ferry, do we have to get permission from anybody other than our local government? It's not a state bridge per se, but we would certainly check just to see, just like the Brook Street Bridge.
Sure.
The feds in the state paid to replace it, but it's technically our bridge. So we will find out if we need any authority, but we were all disappointed we didn't get to do the ceremony this past spring when Mr. Anderson's family was going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, we don't know if that's going to happen, but this is something we could do this coming spring or sometime next year, that even if his family can't come out, the town of Dayton can certainly recognize his service. And because my understanding, this medal is here in town. Mm-hmm. It's at the police station, I think, secured. Yeah.
Medal?
I think it's at the police station.
I believe so, yes. I believe that's correct.
Because I think that was going to be the permanent repository because of this value. Okay, all right.
And then Selectman Goulart, if you could also present to the board that evening, I assume there will be some sort of a sign. We know we've loved talking about signs lately. We know that requires a Board of Selectmen vote. So we'll have all our ducks in a row on this, okay?
And,
I agree.
Yeah, that was another reason I mentioned it to Mr. Ferry, because he's our sign guru. And he got the signs for the ones that are posted as you enter Dayton for Mr. Anderson. So just mention that in passing, but I thought it would be really something nice to do.
Thank you, Selectman Goulart. I look forward to seeing that on our January 13th agenda.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next, under new business, we're only 45 minutes behind Selectman Pacheco, so we're right on time. Dayton Board of Selectmen is to review and act on the liquor license renewals. Bear with me just a second. The scrolling is...
Yes. I can make a motion.
You can start, sir.
Yes, I want to make a motion that we approve the liquor license renewals for fiscal year, for packages for fiscal year 2021. 1712 Corporation doing business at 1712 Tavern. Do I have to read the addresses too? I'm just going to read the names. Taunton Yacht Club. Bennett Yak Inc. doing business as Johnny's Market. 44 Liquors Corporation, Avid Chaldas Corporation doing business as Mendoza's Package Store, Rochelle's Market, Brian Stone doing business as Alice's Last Stop, and Winthrop Street Gas. And I'm also including in this motion to renew the following license contingent upon all paperwork being received in a timely manner. And it's Gatarana
Gatarani.
Gatarani, doing business as the New Fast Mart.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion under this? Hearing none. And I would be remiss, Mrs. Brady, you did a fantastic job getting everything together. And it's greatly appreciated. Thank you for holding it together for me.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, and that motion carries. Roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Selectman Pacheco, do you mind continuing?
Sure. I'm going to make a motion to renew the dealer's license for fiscal year 2021 for the following. Okay, it's saying liquor license, but it's actually dealer's license.
Yep, you're right.
One, Lynn's Propane, Truck and Iron Traders LLC, Class 2 license for Mannheim Remarketing Inc., Edward Reese Sr., Bristol County Auto Sales Inc., Judith Costa Costa Truck and Auto Salvage, North Dayton Garage Inc., Town Line Auto and Storage, and Class 3 license for Stephen Lewis and Bristol County Auto Inc. And I'm also including in this motion the following dealers contingent upon all paperwork being received in a timely manner: Advanced Automotive Repairs, Kimball Enterprise Inc., 508 Customs, and Borges Foreign Auto Parts Inc.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Is the correct name for Ed Reese's operation his name? Because we had a problem with that a few years ago, and the initial license was not worded correctly, because I remember going back there and taking him the corrected one. I thought it was Reese's Auto Sales.
Yeah, I believe worded Ed Reese Senior, DBA, Reese's Auto Sales.
Okay, as long as whatever goes on that certificate is correct, because when he got it, he said, this isn't right. And I remember we had to do it over. So that would be my only concern.
I'll accept that amendment.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have an amendment made and accepted, seconded. Any further discussion on this motion with the accepted amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Selectman Pacheco, did you want to lead us in the common victualler?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve the following companies: the Taunton Yacht Club, Dayton House of Pizza, Alice's Last Stop, Mannheim, New England, CNN Pizza, and the following license after being notified and given all the necessary paperwork to renew their licenses. Therefore, I am recommending the renewal of the following license pending receipt of paperwork and payment: Diocese of Fall River, St. Nicholas of Myra.
It's Myra.
You can tell I haven't been there. 1712 Restaurant and Tavern, Dunkin' Donuts, Nana's Place, and Dayton County Country Diner.
Second, and it's Myra, M-Y-R-A.
Yep. Yeah, it's written Myrna, and then we obviously know Myrna, so it was a little confusing. All right. Any further discussion on this before we take a vote? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I would be remiss before we move on. I want to acknowledge the very hard work of Mrs. Kerwin and Mrs. Brady. The Board of Health had been doing, there was a confusion, they had been doing the common victualler licenses And I had reached out and asked them earlier on in the year and said, no, I really think this is a Board of Selectmen thing. Please send them back. They did send them back, unfortunately, right before the deadline. And Mrs. Kerwin and Mrs. Brady rallied and they got everything done. And I'm really proud of them. So thank you.
Do all these licenses renew the first of the year?
Yes, they all do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, I have an item to appoint Mr. Donald Hershey as a volunteer to the Veterans Department, effective his date of his resignation as Veterans Agent, December 8th, 2020.
So moved.
And, oh, okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Specifically, this was something Mr. Hershey had requested. Obviously, you know, he did a fabulous job, so I'm okay with it. I think it's important that we do appoint him as a volunteer to the Veterans Department. I think it will be important for continuity for when there's a new Veterans Agent. We will have the prior Veterans Agent there to show the new person the ropes and the job. I will say I spoke to Mr. Hershey and he had indicated that the past prior Veterans Agents didn't have that sort of training handoff, like a skilled handoff. And so he wanted to break that cycle and dedicate his time to assisting the new Veterans Agent in any way he could. And I think that that's admirable. So I will entertain motions to appoint Mr. Hershey as a volunteer to the Veterans Department effective December 8th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, if there's no further discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. And we want to thank Mr. Hershey for his service, his continued service. And I know Mrs. Pinto will be excited about this as well, the office manager. Next, we want to appoint a gentleman named Ken Pacheco as a non-voting Board of Selectmen liaison to the Historical Commission. Selectman Pacheco, I will give the floor to you. I just wanted to add, I think this will be good for continuity between our board and the Historical Commission. Can you elaborate, sir?
Yes, as the board knows, I was a member of the Historic Commission for a couple of years, and then I resigned from that position. They want some communication with the Board of Selectmen on a regular basis when it impacts them. For example, they were upset that they weren't notified that we're demolishing the building next door, 949 Somerset Avenue. I did speak to the chairperson a few days later. She contacted me. I did not contact her, and I gave her all the information that that we had on how it came down and how we ended up having to vote to demolish it. So by doing this, I can't vote on this. I'll abstain from this, but by appointing me, I'll be the liaison person. I can let them know whenever the board does something that impacts them, and vice versa. If they're doing something or seeking something, I can relay it to the board. So I would appreciate it if I am appointed as the acting, as a non-member of the Historic Commission.
I think it's a good idea.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we appoint Kenneth Pacheco, non-voting liaison from the Board of Selectmen to the Dayton Historical Commission.
I will step down and second that motion. Under discussion, I wanted to say I had a very nice conversation with Mrs. Gale. So I believe is the chair, right, of the Historical Commission?
Yes.
Yep. And she was upset, but you know Mrs. Gale, she's nice. So she wasn't, she didn't give me a hard time, but she did raise a lot of good points. She had seen the article in the Gazette, Mr. DeSico, who was on the call, actually, the Gazette reporter, he's dropped off since. He had called me about something else and then ended up asking me about the house. And then the whole article was about those 2 sentences about the house, which is fine. But I did assure Mrs. Gales that there was no further information. There at that time that we had the conversation, there was not a date set. We did not know who would potentially raise the historic Briggs house. And I'm totally fine with having a liaison. Like I said, they have a lot of important projects. They went out for that grant, the Macris grant. They're going to update their inventory. And I think now more than ever, they should probably have a liaison to the Board of Selectmen and quite frankly, have that continue long after any of us are on the board. So I appreciate you stepping up, Selectman Pacheco, on that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'm gonna abstain.
The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Abstain.
Thank you. I'm on my roll call vote. Nobody's complimented me on it tonight.
You did miss it once.
Well, I did.
Before I brought it up.
We're
Okay.
looking for perfection.
Right. Okay. Next time. Next on the agenda is to review, discuss, or act on the conservation agent / Zenith Middle School disclosure. If anyone has this email up, do you mind starting to read? Oh, no, I got it. Sorry, it came right up, as weird as that is.
I'm
So
looking.
this is from our newly appointed conservation agent, Mrs. Lisa Caledonia. This letter is dated December 8th, 2020. I just want to highlight, because it is pertinent, that Mrs. Caledonia's start date for the town of Dayton is not until January 4th of 2021. So she writes to Karen and she says, as we discussed over the phone yesterday, back in March of this year, Niall Zager, which I believe project engineer, maybe, CC'd on this email of Zenith Consulting LLC, contacted me, and Lisa states that her business is LSC Environmental Consulting, for a proposal for wetlands work, specifically wetland delineation / reconnaissance and letter report of findings for the Dayton Middle School project. Ironically, Niles contacted me this past Friday to let me know the town move forward on this project. She's referring to the Dayton Middle School / Dayton Elementary School parking lot reconstruction project. And he'll need me to proceed as a sub-consultant as soon as possible. In order to do so, we both agreed that we would need the town to okay me, Lisa, doing the work / proceed, considering when just voted to hire me, Lisa, as the conservation agent beginning January 4th. I was clear, and Niles agreed, that I'd need to complete my work, meaning this private work, prior to my start date on January 4th. Also, we would need the Board of Selectmen to okay this. Please let us know if I can proceed with this request and or if you require any additional information from me. Thank you, Lisa Caledonia. Did the board have, do you have any comments, questions? I know she's requesting a vote. So Selectman Goulart, did you want to kick us off, or Selectman Pacheco?
After we had the site visit at the middle school and went over the whole project that's going to take place, Mr. Ferry advised me that she would actually be working on that project prior to coming to work for the town of Dayton. He was concerned, and what I said to him, what would have to happen is, if you think about the environmental lawyer that represented the neighbors against that development off of Country Hill Drive a couple of years ago, when it was decided the town of Dayton would appeal the decision against the Conservation Commission that had been issued by DEP, it was suggested that that attorney represent the town of Dayton. In order to do that, he had to state publicly that he was leaving, if you will, the employee of those neighbors. And there had to be a vote by the Board of Selectmen that would allow him to come on and represent the town of Dayton in this particular case. The other thing that happened was, obviously, we checked with town council to make sure it was okay to hire an attorney who was a specialist in environmental issues. So when Mr. Ferry told me about the work that Ms. Caledonia is going to be doing, I said to her, this sounds similar to what happened a few years ago with that environmental attorney who in effect was representing private citizens, but then came over and represented very successfully the town of Dayton in that appeal. However, now that I've read this and see what we're talking about, and I have the letter from her employer, I think the first thing Lisa has to do is get a form and send it to the Ethics Commission explaining exactly what's here. I believe they will give her instruction. They will let her know if she can start for the town of Dayton on January the 4th. If all of that's fine, that form should come to the Board of Selectmen and we should act on whatever the that slipped my mind. State Ethics Commission rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
But can I ask you a question, Selectman Goulart? You know it takes them, because we all have, everyone calls. You'll inevitably, if you stay in elected office or an appointed official long enough, you inevitably have to call them about something. And they take 30 days for a written determination from
No, I can tell you when my grandnephew was recommended for appointment on the police department, I immediately got the form online and I faxed it right in and I had it back in no time.
Okay. So this isn't for a written determination then. Okay, I misunderstood.
No, I think they're going to allow her to do it. I don't know if they're going to allow her to come on board on January the 4th. The other thing is, since she is going to do a study for this company who we are going to employ, if at any time she has to get involved with the study she did, and she's still our employee, she's got to cover herself because she could get into a conflict and it could get dicey. Yeah. So I really think it's a formality, but now that I've seen what's written here, I think it's the safe thing to do. I really don't think it's going to be a problem, but she can do that immediately. She just go online and get the form and get it in there. And she can do what she has to do for that project.
Selectman Pacheco, sir.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the timing then, because we're not meeting again until January. Are you suggesting, Mrs. Goulart, that we make a motion allowing her to do it contingent on her getting a response from the ethics board?
Like approval?
Okay.
No, I'm saying let the Ethics Commission make the decision.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right.
So
I don't want to take action against her one way or another. Technically, until, let's assume, absolutely positively January 4th, she becomes an employee of the town of Dayton, period. She's free to do whatever up to a certain point, which is the January date. If in fact she does not have a response from the State Ethics Commission, and she hasn't finished that project, I believe she can make a decision and say, look, town of Dayton, I'm going to finish this project. I got a few more days to go. I can come on board contingent on that thing with the State Ethics Commission. I'm more concerned about her protecting herself. I think the town of Dayton is going to be okay, but I don't want to say, yeah, you're offset, go ahead and do it. And then we find out there's some little technicality that none of us knew about and we get her in trouble.
Okay. So we will, she will fill out the form and the Massachusetts State Ethics Commission will render their determination, correct?
Yeah, Mrs. Brady, do you understand? You can let her know what we're talking about.
Yeah, everybody knows what the State Ethics Commission is. They got to do that conflict of interest law training before they come on. So yeah, we'll get that covered.
Right. It's just, I'm more, like you say, I just want us to give her the right vote when the time comes. And I think it's going to be okay.
But but to Selectman Pacheco's point, if you're saying she needs another vote, then that's not till January 13th.
She's already been appointed by the town of Dayton. She can work for this company through the end of December, up until January 3rd at midnight.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
If for some reason she doesn't have that response by the 4th, then she's going to have to say to either them or us, I can't start in Dayton because I got to finish the job with this engineering firm. Or say to the engineering firm, look, I've got to start the job in Dayton. I've got to put this one on hold. That Ethics Commission ruling is really what's going to apply. And our vote is going to be based on that, which, as I say, I believe it's going to be okay. So our vote is secondary to what the Ethics Commission says. I will be very surprised if they say she can't do it. And if in fact they do that, she needs to know that as soon as possible to protect herself.
Okay, so we don't need to do anything.
Until the meeting in January when we know for sure what happened.
Okay. So next on the agenda is to review, discuss, and act on the 2% increase for non-union personnel for the following 3 positions: the Community Preservation Committee clerk, the Highway Department's clerk, and the Board of Health transfer station attendant. If you recall, because we're actually almost on next year's budget, next fiscal year. So if you can recall to last fiscal year, we did agree to give everyone I shouldn't say, not everyone got a 2%, but we agreed nothing over 2%. So these individuals, I believe, had the 2% budgeted, but because we never specifically voted to grant these particular positions that 2% wage increase for this fiscal year, they have not received it. Mrs. Brady and I contacted Mrs. Brady contacted the relevant department heads to receive assurance that there are funds available to retroactively pay the 2%. And my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Brady, is that the funds are there. And that's why this is here before us for action. And when I say the funds are there, I mean in the respective department budget. With that, I will open this up for discussion.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion that we give a 2% increase for the non-union personnel, the following non-union personnel: Board of Health transfer attendant, highway clerk, and the CPC clerk.
Second.
Retroactive to July 1st, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this?
We have one other employee who, when their salary was set, was not set at 2%. There were 2 employees at the time. One employee had an adjustment made, the other one did not. The criteria for those wages were the same. I really think that that individual, whether you do it on the next agenda, that I believe, in all fairness, that individual should get that increase, because the criteria that was used to determine the raises was revoked in one place and applied to the other. And it's unfair.
I literally have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm happy to put that on the next agenda so we can have, it's not even ringing a bell at all. So we'll discuss that on the next agenda.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. No problem, Mrs. Brady. We have a couple things we've added for the 13th from tonight.
It'll be a nice meeting.
Yep. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion under these 3 specific positions? And again, we may have another discussion on the 13th for one outstanding one. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Under 8J, we have to review, discuss, and act on the Sursage DPW Services recommendations and award. Give me 1 second. The endless scroll here. Okay, give me a second. Okay. So we have a bunch of bids and we need to go through them, I guess, one by one and approve the awards, correct? Or can we, Mrs. Brady, can we just do it as presented?
I would say you'd be okay to do it as presented. They're all laid out right there on the pages. So I would think you're okay, but it's entirely up to the board.
Okay, I will entertain motions. I think we can do as presented because this is already done. And this is what the group, Sursage, agreed to.
Dr. Z, I don't remember reading all this last time. So I will make a motion.
I don't need this.
I will make a motion that we award DPW services as procured by Southeastern Regional Services Group for, it looks like it's all highway supplies and materials, from what I can see.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that's how I will describe it, as highway supplies and materials as summarized on the bid sheets.
I'll second that motion.
And I just want to add, listed below, for the 12-month period commencing February 1st, 2021.
That's a good point. Thank you, Selectman Goulart.
I'll
We have
second.
a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Just a comment, Mrs. Brady. I think for these Sursage bids, they mostly group them like this and they do it on one, I guess, service award sheet. I don't think there's a need to go through and do like a separate spreadsheet, because most of the time I feel like the board will hopefully make a motion just to award as presented, unless there's a discrepancy, of course. So yeah, I don't think we need to do that going forward. I think this is fine.
Dr. Z, I think in the past also, we would only read the ones that Mr. Ferry was actually going to use. There's stuff on there that he wouldn't, pages of stuff that he probably
Correct.
wouldn't order, so.
And that's, for his discretion.
Right.
Okay, we are almost, give me 1 second. We're almost done with new business. And last is to review, discuss, and act on the fiscal year 2022 budget schedule. So Mrs. Brady and I were, she prepared a memorandum sort of based on what the town administrator, Mallory Aronstein, had sent out last year to kick off fiscal year 2021 budget season. And basically what this memorandum is going to say is that the budgets must be submitted to the town accountant no later than Monday, February 1st, 2021. Any budgets received later than this date will be budgeted at $0 under department request, no exceptions. So in talking to our town accountant, Mr. Laviolette, and consultation with our executive assistant, Mrs. Brady, since every department head theoretically will submit a budget by February 1st, I'm thinking in February, as is customary, and per this memorandum that will go out, normally that would be the period when the town administrator meets with the department heads before the discussions even start with the Board of Selectmen. We don't have a town administrator, so I'm happy to meet with department heads in February. Not everything goes to the Board of Selectmen, so you get the authority anyway. March and April is when our Board of Selectmen, will meet with department heads to start discussing the budget. So this is the same exact thing as last year, except we just don't have a town administrator at the moment. And if we do get one, they're going to come in right in the middle of budget season. So March, April, Board of Selectmen meets, and I'm thinking April, May, and we can't decide for the finance committee, but just based on last fiscal year, April, May was when they did their meetings with department heads. Selectman Pacheco?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We had last year. Hopefully, our town administrator, as we start going forward with this, but
Yep.
okay,
What does that sound?
I don't know. It's not here.
Does nobody else hear that?
I did.
I did.
Yeah, that's gonna stop. That's very annoying. Okay. and it wasn't you, Selectman Pacheco, but it was like I could hear it and it was tough to hear you, so I apologize. But I agree. I think last year was pretty smooth. This year, it looks like a lot of the initial budget preparation work will be done by the town accountant. He will receive the departmental budget requests, and then he will translate that into a Google Sheet, a living document that all key stakeholders will have access to, that will be updated in real time. So we're not going to be doing the print out a million sheets, papers flying everywhere, 90 versions of Excel emailed back and forth. Every time you change a letter, you got to email it back. So we're going to avoid that. And I think we actually, despite being down a town administrator, I really think that it's going to go smoothly this year. It sounded like everybody, finance, selectmen, accounting, it sounded like everybody was on the same page. So I'm very optimistic about this budget season. And we don't have a town administrator, so we all get to just even be that little bit closer, right, during budget season. So I'm not sure if we need to act on this. The memorandum needs to be signed by the selectmen. If it already has been signed, I will entertain motions to formally approve the fiscal year 22 budget schedule.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we will get that memorandum out as soon as possible. Next on the agenda under Selectmen's report, I have a brief update on the Serpent Engineering sign study related to the safety zone. Yep, Selectman Pacheco?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we ought to go to correspondence because we do have somebody
Oh, yes,
that's,
absolutely.
I'm sure it's here regarding that email.
Good call. So I will entertain a motion to move item 10A out of order.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we want to thank Mr. David Derrick for joining us. I know that he had reached out to us as he has a very generous donation that he would like to make. And I do just want to, before throwing it over to you, Mr. Derrick, I just wanted to read the letter or the email rather that you had sent us. And it went to the agricultural mailbox, which no one has access to. So I apologize that we did not get back to you earlier. This is government here. But thank you so much, and I will read your letter. It says, "Dear Commissioners, I'm interested in learning more about the proposed Dighton Community Garden and how I might submit a donation to aid in its creation and implementation. My parents, David and Julia Derrick, lived at 949 Somerset Avenue from 1965 to 2002, and my sister, brother, and I grew up there. My mother was a longtime member of the Dighton Garden Club. That's fabulous. I believe, Selectman Pacheco, your wife, is Chris on there as well?
Yes, she's a member, yes.
Crazy. Small world.
Yeah.
And they're a fabulous group of people, and they keep our town beautiful.
Yeah.
Our children loved visiting their grandparents and playing in the yard where the community garden is proposed. They are now in their 20s and 30s. That is beautiful. We don't get too many nice letters like this. So, Mr. Derrick, welcome back to your hometown. Yes. Even virtually anyway. And I want to throw it over to you, sir.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. And I hope I haven't made too big a deal of this, but I've seen some of the correspondent newspaper articles and activity about the house at 949 and, the various actions that were attempted and, that passed in regard to either moving the house or now raising the house. And as part of that, I saw the article or I think I went to your minutes and saw the presentation by the folks that were proposing the community gardens. So at that point, I thought, well, you know, our family spent a bunch of time there.
Mm-hmm.
They had mentioned in their presentation that they had a budget. They were hoping to raise funds through donations and other means, you know, to get the gardens off the ground. So that kind of sparked something in my head, and it being around the holidays, I figured that instead of, although we won't be getting together, you know, I still get together with my sister and brother's family and my nieces and nephews, along with my children. And I was just thinking, instead of sticking another Dunkin' Donuts gift card in their stockings, maybe I could put that to better use and, you know, give them some good thoughts. So my inquiry was really to find out what the mechanism is for me to, you know, send a donation to contribute toward that amount to the commission, to the town, whatever entity.
Wow, that's very nice. It really is. I know it will mean a lot to the custodians of the garden, Tanya Patricio and Jenna Montero, Jenna Barr. They are Scout moms. And so they're very proud people who take a lot of pride in their community. And I want to let you know, it is, you know, it's very sad, obviously, that a part of history will be raised. I can say in this particular case, I do take a little bit of solace in the fact that the space will be used by generations for years to come.
Yeah.
Hopefully as a community garden, and then, you know, when I'm dead and gone, you know, hopefully someone will expand it even further and continue to develop that space as a low impact development green space. So really returning it to nature, bringing our community together at the same time. And so, like I said, while I'm sad, I do try to remind myself about that. And it gives me just a little bit of, you know, optimism. So I appreciate your donation. Even considering to do it is a very generous, altruistic act. So I just want to thank you. I hope you, like me, also take just a little bit of solace in the fact that a lot of good memories will continue to be made there.
So I would like to thank you for your generous donation also. I had an opportunity in the 90s to meet your parents and to get a tour of the house. It was around the holidays. And as you know, I'm sure, that house was in early American life. And they had some beautiful pictures in that magazine. I'm a history buff. To this day, we still get early American life. But it was great to see a house in Dayton in early American life. It is sad that we're losing the house. I'm sure you haven't had an opportunity to go into it recently. I have in the past year, and it's not in the shape that your parents had. I know they sold it and they left the area, and some other people owned it, but it was not cared for as much as your parents. And I believe your father did a lot of the work in restoring that house, and it really was and is a great house. It's sad to lose that house, but as Dr. Z has said, by having a community garden there, it kind of continues some of the things that have happened on that property. And if there's some way we can dedicate the garden, perhaps to the Derrick's family, that would be great, because that's how I remember the house. I don't know who owned it after that. I do know them. And the Dayton Historic Society was allowed to get a tour of the house, and it was a great opportunity that we had. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your kind words. We still have the decorations that my mother had out, you know, in that article, you know, as part of the photographs, and, you know, they're around our house right now. And some of them are still around her house. She lives in New Hampshire now, but they did a lot of work. They loved living there, and you know, we all did. I loved hopping the wall and going next door to the fields, to the tennis courts before the town hall was there, the open space before the tennis courts were there.
Dayton High School.
Yeah.
I'm not that old. That it was it was the junior high for me.
Yeah.
But yes, I appreciate your kind words, and I think even I think I also, and I don't want to take up your time. You have important business to do, but
this is important to us, Mr.
I do. Oops, I put my volume up. I do remember reading one of the articles that also mentioned the possibility of the property being considered maybe for a library at some point, or, and I don't know if that's still an opportunity, but it also reminded me of my father was a big reader, visited the library down on Main Street, you know, weekly, and was a hero one time for helping the librarian get a bat that was in the building out the front door. So when I saw that, I remembered I had that thought. So that was another fun memory.
Well, it's good to know that your father was not just a man of words, but he was also a man of action. That's a beautiful memory. It's a beautiful sentiment. And, you know, we're on the list for a grant for the libraries. Selectman Pacheco is working very closely with the Library Board of Trustees on that. And it's very much still alive. The thought that we've had, and again, nothing is decided. We do know the community garden will go in, but we are preparing the community garden in such a manner, Mr. Derrick, that there will be room for a library towards the front, and then the garden will have room, if it needs to, be moved further back at some future indeterminate date. So we want both to blend, the library and the community garden, and they'll be, you know, together as one, you know, entity. One experience, I guess, is what you would call it.
Dr. C?
Sure. Yes, Selectman Goulart.
Mr. Derrick, when I saw your email, I was elated. Prior to your parents living there, Charlie and Janice Terry lived in that home. They had an apartment initially, but that was their first home. And when they left that home, they went into another very historic home where they live to this very day. And I've had a number of conversations with Janice Terry about that property. And I know it has a warm place in their hearts because it was their first home. Relative to if you wish to make a gift, yes, it is possible to make a gift to the town of Dayton. I would say you should contact the town accountant, because if you choose, you can make you would make the check out to the town of Dayton, and you should have written instructions on how that money is to be used. If you want it for the community garden or something else in town, because that way it'll be earmarked. And the request to accept the donation would come to the Board of Selectmen. And once approved, it would be set up in that account. And that account may be something that other people in town would want to contribute to, just like they do when somebody passes, they might make a donation to the fire account or the police account. But it's possible you would start, it would be the seed money that started such an account that would go on for years. But literally, the first donation for the account should indicate how the money should be spent. So it's not just willy-nilly.
Exactly. Okay. Mr. Derrick, I also wanted to add, I agree with everything both of my colleagues had said. We had this idea to do a community garden. I worked with the Agricultural Commission on it. We got a little bit of money to get it started. A lot of it will be via generosity of people like you, Mr. Derrick, people who donate lumber, people who donate time, people who donate any type of materials, seeds, any type of donation that you're willing to give is greatly appreciated. And I can assure you it's needed and it will go far.
That's great. And I do want to thank Selectman Goulart for reminding me of the Terrys. I was trying to remember their name. And, you know, my plan was to ask my mother the next time I speak with her, but remember them. One of her friends, Mary Lou Watson, who lived across the street.
Yes.
On Diagonal, who also lived in a historic house and, you know, talks to my mother probably once a month or so. You know, it was, you know, a great place for us to grow up. You know, we had great neighbors, great resources, and, you know, a nice part of town. We weren't in the village, so, you know, we couldn't walk to many places, you know, whether that be in South Dighton or North Dighton, but, you know, we made our own fun and it was a great place. So I would like to commend, you know, you and the Scouts. My mother was a den mother. We used to have the meetings either at our house or at that little building across from the junior high in the Grange.
The Narragansett School, it's still there.
Okay. Yeah, so, you know, when it was more than just our den, I think we would meet there at some time. So, but no, I appreciate everyone's nice thoughts and the work that folks are doing for this great idea. And thanks for putting me on the agenda. And the good news is with, you know, the virtual agenda, we don't have to worry about driving home in the snow. I've done that many times, you know, late night meetings. So
thank God we're home tonight.
I also appreciate you moving me up in the agenda, you know, to get to this. So thanks so much, and thanks to everyone. And while I, you know, won't be writing a check for that whole amount that I saw in the article, I hope it's a good start. And I'm sure that we'll continue to pay attention and see how things progress.
Thank you.
We will certainly keep you updated, Mr.
Keep in touch.
Yep.
Keep
I
in
will.
touch.
Thank you.
So thanks again. I'll sign up so that you can get to the rest of your night, get to dinner or whatever.
We don't eat.
I thank you for those instructions, and I will send our donation, hopefully our first donation of several, once the kids find out and my brother and sister, you know, hopefully that will plant the seed, no pun intended. So, you know, for them to do this, you know, we don't need stuff. We need good deeds. So that's our start.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I can tell you're a true Daytonian. Big heart.
It's the roots.
Absolutely, they grow deep.
The last comment I make, Selectman Goulart again. You mentioned it was the Terry's first house. It was my parents' first house. We moved all the way out to Dighton from Fall River.
Ooh.
From a triple decker that my father and uncle's family owned, and my vovó, my Portuguese grandmother, she'd never see us again. She thought we had moved all the way out to the country and she'd never see us again.
The wilderness.
So far away.
She got over the bridge and she said, I think we took a wrong turn somewhere.
Yeah. If they saw the new bridge now.
Right? Well, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And we'll be in touch. We will definitely keep you updated. I'll speak to the custodians of the garden.
Great. Thanks so much.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Bye
Have a
now.
good evening, sir.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Well, that was nice.
Yes.
Thank you, Selectman Pacheco, for that suggestion. I appreciate that. Certainly more fun than the engineering science study update I'm about to give. Just very, just very briefly, Town Administrator Aaronstein, after we had, excuse me, approved in full the safety zone that spans, the intersection of County and Old Somerset Ave and then down Pleasant Street and all the streets east, all that. She had sent a form off to Serpide requesting the engineering sign study. I hadn't heard anything back, and so I followed up and eventually got an answer. It's very difficult right now because everybody is working from home at Serpide, as most places are closed right now as well. And so they eventually got back to me and they said, staff has been researching the guidance through the manual on uniform traffic control devices in the application form, which is what Mallory had sent, Town Administrator Aaronstein. She had indicated that Mr. Ferry, the highway superintendent, has a map of the proposed zones. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, our offices remain closed, but if the map is in digital format, such as PDF, that would assist with the recommendations. I then sent them the map that we had seen the evening before we made our vote. And so they are doing their work, and I will be following up with them shortly before the holidays, sometime next week, to hopefully have an update on that. And again, this is the sign study that needs to be done in order for everything to be accepted by Mass DOT and for us to know where we're to put the safety zone signs. Okay?
Yep.
Any questions on that?
Nope.
All right. And just a brief report on the emergency dispensing site. So obviously, the selectmen are aware that the emergency dispensing site is at the Dayton Middle School. We had I say we, there were a lot of key stakeholders such as the public safety chiefs, Chief McGee, Chief McDonald. We had a online training through Mass DPH last week, and we went over different scenarios that one may encounter, one meaning a town, a municipality, in response to infectious disease. And what this training, it was a 3-hour training with real life scenarios and brainstorming sessions and breakout groups, and it was very interactive. The end result was that we were able to decipher that probably the largest gap in our current emergency preparedness plans, at least in response to infectious diseases such as COVID-19, is a lack of plans specifically tailored to our disabled community. So when I say that, I mean hearing impaired, visually impaired, mental health disorders. That affects whether people want a vaccine. When you go to give them the vaccine, some people don't take that well. So we need to consider those folks as well. And also folks with mobility issues. And what happened was the pandemic task force, as a result of the obvious glaring gaps in our plans, did reach out to the ADA Commission. We provided them with some documentation that's relevant to developing emergency preparedness plans specifically for a disabled community. And we also sent them a memorandum requesting that they work with not just each other, but also with the Massachusetts Office on Disabilities, working on how we can incorporate disabled, what should I say, protocols, I guess, procedures on how to distribute vaccinations such as the COVID vaccine, how to work the disabled community into those plans. They have different considerations, sometimes extra considerations that need to be made knowing what the impairments are. And so we have tasked the ADA Commission with that. We will be partnering with them once they've had time to look at the current emergency preparedness plans and think about the different considerations they need to make in order to give us the recommendations they will give us for incorporation. But the good news is that work has started. And if anybody wants to refer to the materials from the training, I do have them in the office of the Board of Selectmen. I am happy to make anyone copies, especially any members of the ADA Commission. And so with that, I will open this up if anyone had any questions about the training or my first report as well.
Well, I can tell you that the Commission on Disability met last night. However, we didn't have a quorum, so but we did discuss this. We're going to have and Jen, you can correct me on this. We're going to have a meeting on December 30th, 2 weeks from today, to begin the process of looking at what we can do as far as the pandemic and how we can assist people with disabilities. So we do have the paperwork that you gave me, Dr. Z. I gave it to the board or told them where the link is, that they can get that information. And I know that the ADA coordinator has contacted the Office of Disability to see how they can assist us and give us some guidance. I'm not sure if Jen wants to add to that, but she was at that meeting we had yesterday too. So.
Mrs. Juszkowski?
Yes, we did plan to meet on the 30th. Hopefully we will have a quorum on that date. What our plan is to sort of chunk out the work. What we have to do as a commission is more generalized. And then what Mr. Gale can do he'll know more individualized folks within town, but because of HIPAA regulations. So we'll make more generalized recommendations basing how to access the building. Or one of the other considerations that came up is really how to reach folks who are shut in or who might not be able to get out to the emergency site. And then lastly, I think one of the biggest stumbling blocks right now is those emergency preparedness plans cannot leave the building. And so because of the buildings being shuttered and accessibility issues within the ADA Commission, we need to kind of overcome that barrier before we can move forward.
Totally understand. Yep, I get it. I was baffled by it too, but it makes sense because if that copy never comes back, we don't have a plan. So I want to thank the AD Commission in all seriousness for, being willing to jump those hurdles, no pun intended. It's really nice to partner with you guys on this. I wanted to mention the other reason why we wanted you guys involved is because when the time comes and we need to do the public outreach, so there's the plans, right? But then there's telling people about the plans. It's like the vaccine versus the vaccination. We want to be including in any press releases that we officially release to the public, those instructions or recommendations, whatever we want to call them, for our disabled Daytonians. We want them front and center in that press release with all the instructions for, Ken and I, for example. Everything should be clear. Everything should be in the same document. And it should be just as, accessible for someone who's disabled to know what they need to do as it is for someone who doesn't have any disabilities. So I'm glad it looks like we're working towards that.
Dr. Z, if I might, I just want to thank you as a board for making that decision as a emergency preparedness committee as well. I think it speaks a lot as a town that we're doing that up front, and that hopefully that sets a precedent for all things that we do moving forward, and making sure that we're including all individuals and taking individuals into consideration, because that really does speak to accessibility, right? If it's an afterthought, it's really not accessible. But if we're doing it up front, we're planning ahead, then that's really breaking down the door to accessibility. So thank you very much for all of your efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't consider this any effort of mine. What I think we are trying to do as a town, and I think we really have made a lot of progress on this, is simply getting into the habit of when you develop a plan, turning to your left or your right to the ADA Commission and then including them in that. I think that's something that we're getting there. I think we are changing the culture. I think the first question that people ask a lot of times now when there's a project proposed or an alteration or some sort of renovation proposed for a building, I do find that the first question now, or the second question is, do we get the ADA Commission involved? Should we contact the ADA coordinator? And I think that that's a lot of progress, even if it doesn't feel like that sometimes. Changing culture, changing how a town has operated is not easy. It's easier to change a form or pass a policy or, hire someone. To actually change the way people behave as a town together, elected officials, appointed officials, is hard. And I see how it's happening. And I do think it's something that we obviously owe Mr. Gale and the entire AD Commission a debt of gratitude, but also elected officials, appointed officials, residents at town meeting who understand, yes, some of these projects will be costly. It is expensive to be ADA compliant, but what else would we be spending our money on? If not to have everybody be able to participate in the government that runs a large part of our lives, if I'm going to be honest. So I'm just very proud of all the work everyone's done, and the commitment to change that culture has been very promising for me. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Selectman Goulart, you are up. You have the floor.
Just one question on what you just said.
Yeah.
You were present when I was asking Chief McGee about the dry run. So when you get through with this next round of work that's coming with ADA, I assume there's still going to be a practice run for the dispensing site for those of us who've been given a role, but we're not really sure what that role is at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're not really there yet because I wish we were, but honestly, how can we have a practice one when we don't have plans for the disabled community? So it's like you or I, Selectman Goulart, are going to be just fine. But if I look to my right and my friend, who has a mobility access isn't with me, I don't feel like that plan is worth very much. So we'll get there. I know you are part of that incident command system structure, right? So we will all be involved in that. Really, the only thing that's going on right now, Selectman Goulart, because we have our emergency preparedness plans.
Right.
That book. We have our marching orders as the selectmen, but we just need that last missing piece of the puzzle, which is how we get our disabled community the proper access to this vaccine distribution that they deserve and need.
Right. When I was given this distinction back in 2007 by Mrs. Annette Wirtz, who was the executive secretary of the Board of Selectmen, and she told me what it was. I said, okay, what do I do? She says, show up. So that's why I'm looking for a little bit more. Yeah. So thank you.
A little bit more meat on the bones of that job description now, Selectman Goulart. But
yes. We'll need an action item, as they say. Okay.
I can tell you, Mrs. Goulart, since I participated when I was chairperson of the select board, we did a dry run. We don't have big roles. The select people don't have big roles in this thing. We're going to be there. We're going to be present, but we're not leading the charge, unfortunately or fortunately. But
no, and I know that, and that's what I had said to Chief McGee, because Dr. Z was really not aware of what I was talking about. And when you had that practice run, I wasn't in town that day. And my concern was we've had a practice, but I missed it. And I'm still not sure what I'm supposed to do. I mean, I'm ready to help, but I got to do more than show up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so agenda item 9B, the MMA update. It was a very lengthy meeting, and I'm going to write it up. As a matter of fact, I've written up the other one that I gave a brief report on, and I'm going to give it to Mrs. Brady. I will also write up the December meeting, just so it'll be there for the records, and I'll make sure that you get copies. The only thing I'm really going to touch on is Jeff Beckwith, the executive director, CEO of MMA, sent a letter to John Fisher at Mass DEP. This is regarding to changes they're proposing in 310 CMR 19.000. I'm only going to read two sections of this multi-page letter. The first one is, Jeff refers to that section, 310 CMR 19.000. And he's happy that MMA is allowed to weigh in on this. this particular regulation or change in the regulation that has upset a lot of people is DEP is planning to ban the disposal of mattresses and textiles in Massachusetts, period. Well, we're working on textiles. We got the pink bag program. But the problem is we don't have enough facilities to be able to take mattresses and recycle them at present. And if you ban them being disposed of in landfills or however they dispose of these things, what are we going to do with them? Interesting thing is the state of Rhode Island has a mattress recycling program, and one of its facilities is located in Milford, Massachusetts. That makes no sense at all. So if you just think about, I think it's Connecticut, Rhode Island, and California actually have mattress disposal programs. You're talking millions and millions of mattresses that are ending up in landfills or something. And if DEP says to us, well, you can't dispose of them anymore, what are we going to do with them? You can't stack them up. So Jeff was writing initially about concerns that they are going to take this without promoting a recycling program, a reuse program, for having facilities in the state where we could recycle them. Again, if you can't put them in a landfill or a disposal, you've got to have a place to take them. So in conclusion, Jeff says, the MMA appreciates our continued membership in Mass DEP's Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and we welcome the opportunity to work collaboratively with Mass DEP before a final decision is made on the proposed waste bans to ensure that municipal concerns and realities are taken into full consideration. So kudos to that, Jeff. The other items I will cover in a summary. We had a representative there that was talking about some of the environmental legislation that's coming up that I mentioned in the past. There's been talk about holding the manufacturers of containers or packaging responsible for disposing of those materials. That's a hot topic, a lot of pushback from the manufacturers. But the meeting went a full 2 hours, which is unusual. But the main issues were packaging and holding them responsible, and that whole mattress and textile thing. So I will give you summaries of that. So at your leisure, you can take a look at that. The other item that I've got on the agenda here is update on DG Solar Farm pilot agreement. DG Solar is what we call Phase 1 Elm Street. This was one of the agreements that was tabled a number of years ago. This is not the solar farm that sued and lost to the town. This is the other one. They presented a draft pilot agreement while we were working on Greenbrook, Middle Street, Tremont Street, which were approved. And they asked to see what we had for approved solar agreements. So after we got that approved at town meeting, we sent the one for Middle Street. Well, their original proposal was over $770,000 in tax income over the next 15 years. After they saw Middle Street, they resubmitted a proposal with tax income over 15 years of $200,000. And I asked him why would they decrease it? And they said, well, that's all, we're looking at what you've given, the agreement you have with the Middle Street farm. And I said, no, that's one agreement. There are two agreements, and those two together are over $500,000. So I asked him to go back to the original numbers he had that totaled $770,000, and also to take a look at some of the changes they made. Our solar agreements have clauses in them that state that for each solar farm, the developer will pay to the town of Dayton $5,000 to cover legal expenses and recording and any other kind of expenses the town might incur relative to what we have to do to get them approved. If by chance we needed, I don't know, a special engineer or something. So anyhow, he had also removed that from the agreement, and I asked him why that was removed, and he says, well, we figured you got $10,000 from those other 2 farms, so that would cover it. And I said, no, the $5,000 is in the contract, so you need to put that back in. So anyhow, I'm waiting to hear back from him. We'll be talking some more. I think we're going to have to go back to dollar-wise, the original numbers that were presented, because when I asked him where he came up with that number, he told me that was the amount of money that his company pays other communities. So needless to say, the town of Dayton is not going to settle for $200,000 when we had an offer of $770,000. So we got some more discussing to do. I said to him, those original dollars that you submitted, the total is fine. I showed you how I wanted them front loaded. As long as it comes out to those numbers, put the $5,000 back in. And after that, we've got boilerplate. We just fill in the name and the dates because the dollars that you submitted, as far as I know, are acceptable to our Board of Assessors. And they would have to weigh in on the reasonableness of that tax amount. So anyhow, that's where we are. I'm waiting to hear from him, and I'm sure I'll have some more updates for you as we move through this. But that's where we are with we have that one agreement under negotiation. I anticipate we're going to have a couple more solar pilots coming down the pike, but that's where we are with this one.
All right, thank you so much. We do have an email regarding fire, health, and assessing departments. Excellent service. Bear with me just a moment. This is from, excuse me, Diane Matthews, dated December 7th, 2020. I wanted to let you know, Diane writes, I wanted to let you know that recently I've been in need of information from several departments in the town of Dayton, fire department, health department, and assessing. In each and every instance, their response and professionalism was outstanding. I truly appreciate their fine service. Respectfully, Diane Matthews, Premier Properties. I have to tell you, maybe I'm biased, I was not surprised to read this. I myself, when I have had questions from those departments, get answers, but it's good to know that anyone who reaches out to these departments gets the same level of service, regardless of whether you're, running the town or a resident in the town, or not even a resident in the town. I think in this case, that made me really happy to read. I appreciate when people do send us this feedback, and I'm sure these departments do as well. So thank you to the fire department, the health department, and the assessing department. Selectman Pacheco?
Yeah, no, it's nice to see something like this because it doesn't always happen, but that someone went the extra mile and complimented the work that they do. So it was nice to see that.
Yep, I agree. Usually someone will take time to, when they had a bad experience, I think is, it's human nature. So when someone takes time out of their busy day, especially like we're in the middle of a pandemic, like life is out of the ordinary for most people right now.
Right.
And I feel like most people have less time than they've ever had, free time. And so the fact that this person took time to share a positive experience, it must have made a positive impact for them. And that makes me feel really good. So kudos to everybody. And one moment. I will entertain motions to accept for review the minutes of the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting of December 2nd, 2020 and December 8th, 2020.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please. Aye.
Aye.
All right. And I will also entertain motions to approve the minutes of the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting of November 18th, 2020, October 29th, 2020, and November 4th, 2020.
Now, Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I have not finished November 18th. I remember doing the two FinComs. Mrs. Brady, I still owe you the rest of the 18th. So I would ask that we hold that one.
Okay, are you okay with October 29th, Finance
Yes,
Committee?
yes,
Okay.
I remember, I got those done.
So I think I didn't even say the motion correctly. I think I said them all as Board of Selectmen's meetings. So let me just rephrase my motion, please. I'll entertain motions to approve the minutes of the Finance Committee's regular meeting of October 29th, 2020 and November 4th, 2020.
I so move.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to explain to the board, I stopped doing these because I was trying to help Mrs. Brady go through executive session minutes that have been requested. And we got some information and I needed her to follow up. So when she was able to take that part, I went back to this, but I still haven't finished, but I will get it done.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Selectman Goulart, approval of the warrants, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the following warrants be approved. 24A in the amount of $102,629.21 payroll, and 24B in the amount of $116,233.73 accounts payable dated December 9th be approved.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Excuse
Aye.
me. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move that warrant 25A in the amount of $96,405.71 payroll, and 25B in the amount of $236,069.87 accounts payable, both dated December 16th, be approved.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mrs. Brady, did we get, and we don't have anyone on the line, but did we get any emails or calls? I don't think we did. I don't think so. Perfect. We like that. No, I'm just kidding. Since we don't have any further public input at this time, I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, numbers 1 and 6. 1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than professional competence of an individual, or discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charge against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual, A, police union matter. And 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. I do declare. A, update on AstraZeneca land donation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Before we adjourn, I just wanted to tell everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate with the comfort, in the comfort of your friends and family. Please enjoy yourself. It's been a difficult year for everyone. Enjoy the holidays with the people in your household. Selectman Goulart, did you want to give a brief message?
Yes, please, please, please do what you can to stay healthy. I know it's difficult. I have a large family, but it's been a small gathering and will continue to be a small gathering. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you observe. Festivus for those.
We all observe that.
Festivus for the rest.
Non-denominational there.
But the main thing is enjoy the season. Be thankful if you are healthy, and remember those who may be suffering at this time. But please, these are big holidays. across the world. So I hope everyone enjoys it, and please, good health and happiness in the new year. Things have got to get better, folks.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, thank you, Dr. Zia and Mrs. Goulart for your comments. But if I can just say, please be safe. You know, my family didn't get together for Thanksgiving. We're not getting together for Christmas. We're not getting together for New Year's. And it's always, these holidays have always been big in my family. I come from a very large family, but we're not getting together. We have to be safe because we want to be together next year. So the only way we do that is by staying home, not going out, or reduce it as much as you can. And when the vaccines come in, get a vaccination. So everybody, wish everybody a happy holiday. I'm glad that Mrs. Goulart mentioned Festivus, a big holiday in my family also.
So closing words, folks, stay safe. And if you can't stay safe, stay away from us.
Correct. Everyone have a wonderful